Alright, hello. So we're back today with another NA Newbie tournament. Got our screen block up so we don't leak any builds. So, first of all, this will be our first semifinal game, and it's between Czar and Gianni. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. This is my weekly Newbie tournament that I host through the NA Dom Discord, so yeah. Let's get this show on the road. Players, we are good to go. Nothing's broke yet. I just don't know how YouTube works. It's my first time streaming on YouTube. So, yeah. Yeah, streaming on YouTube for the first time. I've been doing a bunch of YouTube videos, so I figured it'd be nice to just keep all of my content in one place. I'm going to be transitioning over to YouTube a bit more. Yeah, Brink, you should have known that. You're the one who told me how to do this shit. So, our first matchup here is going to be Dark Elves versus the Dawi. This is a match I've played quite a bit myself, as from the Dark Elf side, and I've had quite a bit of trouble with it, actually. Just the sheer amount of armor and infantry that dwarves can pump out could be a real problem for Dark Elves, seeing as they have no AP infantry of their own, short of Harganeth Executioners and Blackguard, which are quite expensive. Most of your AP lies in your missiles, which means it can be kind of tricky to actually apply that AP to the enemy infantry safely, when you are generally going to be outshot by the dwarves. That said, Silver Shielded Dark Shards can trade pretty effectively with most dwarf missiles. You have a little bit of trouble when it comes to things like miners, just pushing up and just deleting your archers. Voice appears to be doubled. That's interesting. I don't hear myself, so it shouldn't be coming from desktop audio. Anybody else having that issue? Okay. Okay, just the one. Okay. Let me know if it's something I need to fix. Like I said, first YouTube stream, things are bound to go wrong. Alright. So, for the forces of the Dark Elves, we have, what is that? Ooh, a Dreadlord Sword and Shield. Don't see these guys very often. A pretty cost-effective melee beater character. Probably just gonna go and try to hunt some dwarf and infantry. And a Sorceress of Shadows with Pit of Balance. And then we have Bleak Swords, backed by some Sisters of Slaughter. Ooh. And along with some Dark Shards. I assume these are shielded variants. Yep, shielded variants, Blackguard Corsairs. It's a heavy infantry line of their own. Ready to go toe-to-toe with the Dwarven infantry, which is generally a pretty daunting prospect for most factions. Got Thorak Ironbrow with Rune of Slowness, Wrath and Ruin, and Rune of Doom on his anvil. Got frontline Dwarf Warriors, backed by Quarrelers, and Dwarf Warrior Great Weapons. Well, it's a single Master Engineer. Alright, probably to just be the turn against something like Malekith or Malice. Just shoot those characters, but his opponent didn't bring any, so I'm curious what kind of targets he'll be choosing. Yeah, the big problem I see for Dark Elves initially is just there's just so much. There's like what 15 units of Dwarven infantry here, all armored, and the Dark Elves only really have Dark Shards as their AP. That said, Corsairs can trade reasonably well into Dwarf Warriors, but the Great Weapons will definitely put the hurt on them. Sisters of Slaughter are a very interesting pick. They have very, very good melee stats, but their AP is not great. That said, their physical resist will help them out, and this ability could actually do reasonably well. Give them a little bit of extra AP and punching power, but I don't know, it only procs in the losing melee combat, which I suspect won't happen that much given the chunky melee stats. They also need to be very, very careful about getting focus fired by crossbows, seeing as they are, in fact, 5 armor. They'll take a ton of damage if they're not careful. Okay, both players are just immediately playing the low ground, so we're just going straight in balls deep. Most of this Dark Elf infantry is silver shielded and will be quite resilient against this crossbow fire. And you'd really love to see the Dwarven crossbows focus firing on the crossbows. What are they called? Dark Shards. They're the biggest threat. They're the AP. Focus fire them. They're silver shielded, but so is the front line. So it's like, well, you're shooting a silver shield anyway. You might as well kill the one that's threatening. I suspect in the melee grind, it will very heavily favor the dwarves, and the blasting charges are just devastating. It's got a Rune Doom coming down, just doing some pretty good damage. Oh, those are Executioners as well. That's a good target. Executioners definitely need to be focused down from range, because they will just destroy the dwarves in melee. Got some Dark Elf focus fire here on Thorak. He's actually taking quite a bit of damage. Thorak has no source of healing. There's no Felix. Oh, that's a nasty Pit of Shades. That's a beautiful overcast pit of shades. Still, the Dwarven missile, magic resist will help them out a ton here and keep them alive even through that really, really nice cast. Yeah, Thoric, there's no Felix on the field, so Thoric doesn't actually have a source of healing. So if any damage he takes will be permanent. And if you lose your Lord pretty quickly to this Dark Elf focus fight, that could be pretty brutal. But Dark Elves are losing out pretty heavily in this melee exchange. Looks like they're down a ton of value, and I just hit my DPI switch. My mouse is going everywhere. Oopsies. Thoric is chunked out to half, but I feel like that's most of the Dark Elves' value at this point is on Thoric. They're just not able to actually do a whole lot to dent this Dwarven armored infantry. The Executioners will grind pretty well, and the Dark Shards will do good damage on any targets they can, but there's just simply too many targets for them to kill alone. And the Executioners, where'd the Executioners go? Are they routed off already? Wow, the Executioners actually got focused down, and they're already gone. They only got 31 kills, 200 value. Jeez, that's really unfortunate. Sister Slars have snuck their way in the back. Oh, I like this. Going in the narrow formation so you can sneak right through the lines and get onto the crossbows. Excellent target. Are these regular cores? They are. So they are, in fact, armored. This should still be fairly resilient. And with, the crossfire. Oh, miners are disgusting. Explosions got buffed coming into Warhammer 3, and miners just love that buff so much. There's another one coming up. These are the Echoed miners as well. So we're doing... Oh, that hurts me. That hurts. I'm a Dark Elf lover myself, so seeing them just get destroyed by these blasting charges, it hurts my soul. Dark Elves have taken objective number 1, but Dwarves have taken objective number 3 and are about to retake objective number 2. The Dreadlord is getting in there trying to fight Thoric, but I don't suspect he's going to be doing that well in that exchange. He's not AP, although he does have hefty weapon strength and still decent AP values, but Dwarf Warriors supporting Thoric should be able to take him down pretty quickly, as Thoric is a quite strong melee combatant in his own right. Along with that, much of the Dark Elf infantry has routed off at this point. Their front line has broken, but they do have more infantry coming in. Corsairs will be able to scrap pretty well once you can actually disrupt that horror line. The problem is that horror line is pretty safe. There's 4 of them still online here, another one being summoned in. Well, that's probably a ranger. Yeah, the Sorceress is gone, as well as the Sister of Slaughter. Dwarves almost 2-to-1 the Dark Elf value. It's very hard as Dark Elves to take the melee fight heads up against Dwarves. You don't have great AP values on your infantry, so you really got to rely on your missiles to do most of your AP work. But your missiles are heavily outranged, so you got to do have a lot of there's a lot of finesse that Dark Elves have to do to really have a chance in this matchup. Otherwise, it's gonna be pretty easy for Dwarves to just slow you down and grind you out. Nice smoke bomb coming in here to stop up those Dark Riders before they can get or flash bomb, excuse me. Just stop up the Dark Riders, get them absolutely last samurai by all of these Quarrelers. But this is looking very dominant showing from the Dwarves so far. Gianni clearly knows what they're doing when it comes to this matchup. Miners are starting to pressure the high ground. I'm not actually sure who wins in a 1v1 between Miners and Bleak Swords. With the Rune of Doom, it's probably going to be the Miners, although they should turn around and start fighting. Yeah, and now Dark Elves just don't have a lot of AP options. Scourgers coming out. Scourgers are decent at killing Dwarves in melee. Chariots are always good. Oh, those are Cold One Chariots. Ooh, they are AP in melee. They could actually do quite well here. Their missiles aren't as good as Scourgers usually, but, I mean, they're usually specialized in killing a large anyway, so just having the AP Chariot could be quite valuable, though I feel like it might be a bit too late. You usually want that Chariot to come in initially and just start running over crossbows so they can't shoot at your infantry, and then that way you can isolate the infantry fight and just grind them out. But at this point, stage in the game, it could definitely do work, but it has to do a lot of work to actually make up for everything you lost so far. Dark Elves are pushing out Dwarves off the objective number 3. One thing I will say is Dwarven infantry is actually running pretty thin. A lot of it has been ground down. They still have a pretty healthy Quarreler line, but nothing here to protect it. We got, was that the Goblobber coming in? Goblobber was excellent for routing off all these low health units with its discouraging effect. Jeez, it's minus 16 leadership, plus the minus 10 from attacked by artillery means any of the low health infantry that gets focused by these are going to be in a lot of trouble. And Dark Elves could actually definitely scrap this one back. We've got a lot of Dark Shards still online. They're holding space pretty effectively, and they're not that far back behind in ticket value. If they can just focus down all the Dwarven infantry and force them off objectives, they can do pretty well. The Sorceress does rally in the backfield. It's a nice Pit of Shades cast on those Rangers, but I would rather see it on the Goblobber. Honestly, the Goblobber is a big threat. Although it probably wouldn't kill it off because, again, Dwarven magic resist. The Dark Elves don't actually manage to capture Objective 3. They are shot off before they can quite capture it. But they are getting Objective number 2 back. And Thoric is actually in a lot of trouble. Being on the anvil makes him a big target for those 3 Dark Shards. He's not long for this world. That said, his leadership will hold. He does have pretty hefty resistances, so he should be fine. He's at 1,000 HP. He needs to run. He's almost out of the Dark Shards range, but they are much faster and should be able to chase it. Well, it's not much faster than. They're a bit faster. Got about 6 speed on him, but yeah, he's not looking so good. The thing is, without the infantry line to pressure the enemy Dark Shards trade pretty well into Quarrelers just based on their Silver Shields. Silver Shields are very, very effective in missile exchanges, as you can imagine. So, Dwarves can actually have a hard time killing these dark shards without these. These are the bane of dark shards and the bane of dark elves in general. Blasting charges. Oh no! Please spread out those dark shards. Come on, Czar. You know this. Yeah, okay. He's spreading out the dark shards. He sees the miners with blast charges coming. You gotta focus fire them. As big a threat as the Quarrelers are, these guys will one-shot your dark shards. You gotta get them off the field ASAP. The Master Engineer is taking a bit of fire, but honestly, I don't think the Master Engineer is really a worthwhile target. You gotta kill those blasting charges. Rune of Doom does come down. It helps the dwarves just pump out a ton of damage in melee, but they're not actually in melee a whole lot, so that was a bit of an awkward cast. Interesting. Dwarves are still up about 3,300 value, but they aren't actually able to hold space, which is, you know, a very, very dwarven thing I've ever seen. Just up a ton of value, but all of your value is in Quarrelers that you don't really want to be setting on the point. Your infantry has been worn down pretty heavily, and you're just lacking the tools to actually force your way into an objective. That said, they are still holding objective number 3, so they will have plenty of time. We got Harpies coming in to try and knock down the Quarrelers, but the Quarrelers are armored, so they won't take a ton of damage from the Harpies. And these are the regular ones, not the ROR. Usually you look to the ROR Harpy because it's just much stronger unit. It's just so sticky, it has a lot of healing and better stats. So it tends to do much better in this kind of scenario, but just lots and lots of Rangers and Quarrelers. Excuse me. Typically I'd like to see more infantry coming at this point because you really need to push out with dwarves. You got a massive value lead. If you just start summoning Dwarf Warriors, blasting charges, and just pushing points, Dark Elves have a hard time answering it, because right now, Dark Elves don't have a whole lot of infantry on the ground of their own. That said, they do summon some Executioners. Executioners can be a real problem, but there's so many Quarrelers, they can just focus fire them down and kill them pretty quickly, I suspect. Blast charges shouldn't do a ton to those Executioners. They are armored, but they just do so much damage anyway. Like, look at this volley. It's about a quarter HP off of a 1,200 gold unit. Damage dealt by a 400 gold unit before even entering in melee. Like, that's just insane. That ammo is just so cost effective. That said, the Dark Elf hold on the center is starting to slip. All they've got here holding center is Dark Shards, and with the Dwarven infantry coming in and the Quarrelers just consistently poking them down, they are losing out on that. That said, these Hardened Executioners could take objective number 3 single-handedly. The Dwarf Grey Weapons will trade up into them, but they should lose out eventually, especially with all the extra Dark Elf reinforcements coming in. Now, I'd really love to see some of these low ammo Quarrelers start to get desummoned. You know, that one. These guys get desummoned, get some presence on the map. Like I said, you've traded up pretty heavily. Now you need to just turn that into positioning on the map. Goblobber is just chunking away and doing good work against both the Executioners and the leadership of those Harpies and stuff. Miners do die out, but yeah, now the Executioners are just being focus fired by the Master Engineer, the Goblobbers, the Quarrelers, everything. Just focus fire those Executioners, and you really need to stop these Dwarven shooting for the Dark Elves. You need... Where'd that Chariot go? Did that Chariot die off already? That's really unfortunate. You really love to see that Chariot just coming in the backfield here and just bouncing between these Quarrelers and stopping them from firing. But as it is, they're in the corner being chased down by Slayers, and they will not be on this battlefield a whole lot longer. Dark Elves are taking objective number 3, but they're bunched up and just getting hammered by the Goblobbers and the Master Engineer, and what's over here? Oh, Dark Shards. So they're actually getting just routed off. That Discourage effect is so brutal. Like I said, it's minus like 26. Yeah, 16 from ability, 10 from damage by artillery. So it's so brutal to try and fight under those conditions. That said, Dark Elves are taking objective 3 for the moment, but these Dwarf Warriors should trade up pretty heavily into these Black Corsairs. What's happening on the high ground? On the high ground, we got some miners coming out. They should be able to take out these Bleak Swords just with their ammo and then finish them off in melee. But Dwarves really need to convert on this damage value lead. They really need to start getting some kind of presence on point. You know, bring these Slayers here to shore up this objective, and then just start focusing on one objective. Usually when you have a missile core like this, you got a real nice pocket of missiles right here, so you don't want to fight for this objective. You want to fight right next to your missiles. These are the points where you can be supported. You don't want to be fighting over here on your own when you don't have to. You don't want to take objective 1 unless you're in a situation where you have to. Where you have to 3-cap. Otherwise you want to fight around your missiles because they're your win condition as dwarves. Almost always. Your missiles are your win condition. They're the best part of the faction. There's lots of Quarrelers, Goblobbers. Goblobbers are getting disrupted by some... It looks like it was a lucky rally where Dark Rise just rallied in the backfield and came on the Goblobbers. They should survive, and as long as one of these is firing... Actually, are the models dead? Or is the crew just dismounted? Looks like... No, the models are fine. Okay. What is this? Is it the Chariot? Ah, that's the Chariots that died. Okay. The Goblobbers are still firing, so the leadership debuffs will still be being applied. And that's going to be really, really rough for the Dark Elves to try and fight in melee against. Looks like the Dark Elves do have a bit of an advantage on the high ground. Well, I don't know. They've got a couple of tattered infantry that's fighting like shaky infantry. They might win out from there, but they're losing the middle pretty heavily. There's no way these Dwarf Warriors lose to these Bleak Swords. And so the Pit of Shadescaster is resummoned, which is a bit of an odd choice. It's pretty expensive. And honestly, Pit of Shades just isn't as effective against dwarves as you'd really like it to be. They do all have, 35% spell resist, so just really, really hard to actually get value out of that spell, or any spell in general. So, dwarves have gotten a firm hold on Objective 3. Pit of Shades come in, mostly dodged. Pretty good dodge there from Gianni. Dark Riders come into the back of these Quarrelers, who have end up in mana. Oh, those are Rangers, even better. Rangers are the one good target for Dark Riders in the Dwarf roster, because they are lightly armored. They only have 40 armor, so the Dark Riders are actually really, really good at shutting them down. Dark Elves are holding on to Objective number 2 for the moment, and they should win out on the high ground as well, so we need to get something in here. And all the Dwarven shooting has actually run its course, like they just run out of ammo on most of the units. So if Dark Elves can actually get some kind of presence on this point and hold, they could actually take this one back despite a massive value deficit. But doesn't look like that's going to happen in time just yet. Dark Riders are free in the backfield. They should be able to shut down the Goblobber, unless there's a Slayer coming in right here, which I doubt we'll see because he doesn't have the resources for it. He just summoned something else. So in that case, I'd love to see these Slayers just break up pursuit and come take the objective. Yep, the Dark Elves are losing the objective, and Dwarves do not, in fact, have to 3-cap just yet, which is a pretty good spot that they're in. So they can just set up their defensive line, like right around here, maybe resummon some Quarrelers, get in a bit more infantry, and just hold on to these 2 objectives. Thoric, honestly, he should be desummoned. He's just a risk at this point. Or just hold him like way in the back to be using Rune of Doom. Just sit way back there. Rune of Doom isn't limited charges, right? Yeah, so just have him chill out. Just use him as a caster, basically. He's so low health that he's just a risk. And oh, we got the Aaron's Myers in the backfield. They're allowed to fire. That could be devastating for these Dark Shards. Okay. Tattered Bleak Sword does stop them from firing, which is good. Now, please, folks, fire them with all your Dark Shards. Just delete the Ekron's Miners. They're such a huge threat. Don't care about the Slayers. Bleak Swords will trade fine into Slayers. You gotta kill the Ekron's Miners, and they are. Okay, I'm taking a ton of damage. Dark Shards are doing really good, well against them, but I don't know how the Dark Elves are gonna kill all of this Dwarven infantry. This is the big trick in this, tricky part of this, about this matchup, is that Dark Elf infantry just doesn't trade up into Dwarven infantry very much. It's just, Corsairs do okay, Bleak Swords do okay, but they really just struggle to punch through the armor. Necromires are getting routed off, and Slayers are getting just mulched by Corsairs. Corsairs are another really good choice for killing Slayers. Yep, pull the Dark Shards back through your Corsairs, put the Corsairs up front. Slayers will get pincered and killed, and then the Dark Shards can come around the side and start shooting the targets they need, namely Dwarf Warriors, or Longbeards even better. Although they probably want to kill the Miner first, they can't shoot. As I've shown earlier, Miners that get to shoot tend to kill things very, very quickly for their price. Miners can get a ton of value off of their shooting very, very quickly, and it's kind of disgusting. It is kind of gross. But it's looking pretty good for the Dwarves. They are actually taking the high ground objective. They have a of Slayers there, as well as another one of Dwarf Warriors coming out. And that's forcing Dark Elves to really... Dark Elves are on a really tight clock. Once they lose this objective, they'll be dropping their ticket lead very, very quickly. They need to actually start taking up Jack objectives. And the problem is, you can either summon infantry to go and sit on an objective that can't trade well in the Dwarf infantry, or you can summon Dark Shards that can kill Dwarf infantry, but can't sit on objectives. So, what do you summon in this situation? It's really, really tricky. That said, there's a lot of damage going down, and ooh, Pit of Shades? Nice Pit of Shades here. Should be able to rout off these Dwarf well, they're Longbeards, they never rout. They're pretty much unbreakable, but does some good damage. Come on, if you can finish them off, but there's just a lot of Dwarf Warriors left in the area. A lot of armored infantry, some Dark Riders, cheeky Dark Riders and Corsairs trying to take objective number 3, but Longbeards Great Weapons will absolutely destroy Black Corsairs, I suspect. And I don't think Dark Elves have the killing power left on the field. The initial trade just went really, really poorly for them, so they're just kind of fighting from behind the entire game, and actually did pretty well despite that. But I don't see how Dark Elves are actually going to muster the forces to get back on these objectives in any reasonable amount of time. Slayers really want to avoid those Black Corsairs. Let the Dwarf Warriors come up and fight them, bring the Slayers away. Black Corsairs like the hardest counter to Slayers, and yeah, that's exactly what's happening. Slayers are walking away. The Dwarf Warriors can trade reasonably well into the Corsairs. Like I said, the ticket value is actually now in the Dwarves' favor, so Dark Elves have to start retaking very, very quickly, and the Goblobber is still firing. It's gotten 1,200 value, and that's not even counting the leadership debuffs it's applying. The leadership of these Corsairs is just getting hammered by artillery. Wow, wait. Why is that for artillery 8? It was 10 earlier. I don't understand this game sometime. Spoilers are getting jumped on by Dark Riders, but Dark Riders have just terrible AP as well. You don't have high weapon strength at the beginning, and AP is just not their strong suit. So while they will stop them from firing, they won't kill them off. More Harpies coming in, and Harpies have a very similar problem of they're fast, They're squishy and they don't actually hit that hard against armor. Dark Elves are actually retaking high ground. Jeez, Corsairs actually took these dwarves to pound down. But with blasting charges coming in, they'll just destroy them, and even if they don't, they can just come sit on the objective, make sure the Dark Elves can't take back. And there's only a few minutes left on the clock, so this game looks like it will be going in the favor of the Proud Dowie. And the caster actually dies off again. The Master Engineer does good work. I've seen a lot of people using Master Engineers lately, and they've done really, really well. They've got 1200 value just shooting away. They've got really strong missile attack, as well as flash bombs. Dwarves always love slows because it brings the people down to their level, so they can actually catch you and beat on you or shoot you. It's like slows and nets have always synergized really well with shooting, and that's one of the few ones dwarves have. So it's really, really strong. And yeah, I don't see a way for Dark Elves to get back on these points in time. Dark Elves just chunking away, but like I said, that's the Dark Elf conundrum. It's like you can either have infantry to fight on point, or you can have Dark Shards that can actually kill things. And Dark Shards have done a ton of work. Got a ton of value. Granted, they were resummoned. Still, that's a ton of damage value, just chewing away at the infantry. You have to cede so much space to do it, and taking space back from dwarves just takes so much time. Looks like that will be our first game, going to Gianni. Again, I'm not sure how the name is pronounced. I apologize if I'm butchering it. So we have, that's just Rune of Doom. Never knew how that visual. But yeah. First game going to the Dwarves. That's a pretty rough matchup for Dark Elves, to be honest. Like I said, there's just not a lot of good AP tools for Dark Elves. It's all in the missiles. And Dwarves often have a lot of tools to deal with that. This just a lot more interesting, but I think it's always just really risky to bring that lightly armored unshielded. Well, they have dodge, they have base, but like they're pretty squishy to missiles, and dwarves have a lot of missiles. I like Executioners as a late game option. In the starter, they tend to just get focus fired, which is exactly what happened here. I don't mind Executioners in a late game scenario where, you know, the quarters have spent all their ammo and they can just go to work. But no, this is definitely a tricky matchup for the Dark Elves. Still, well played by Gianni. This dwarf build is really hard to beat for a lot of factions. Just bringing a ton of armored infantry, backed up by slayers, longbeards, and blasting charges. It's just kind of like daring your opponent to actually bring enough AP to deal with it. It can be very, very difficult. Blocker back up. That will be our first game going to Gianni. Did you play more dwarves? Can I slap them since they assume they're weak? Apparently not. Yeah, dwarves are pretty strong nowadays. No miners, blast charges. Miners, blast charges are usually a reinforcement because they're one of the few Vanguard deploy options. So you start your gun line, your base dwarf warriors, and you summon in your miners because they can catch up with them with Vanguard. So hey, Rusty. Up in the chat, say you love to watch and play this tournament. If it wasn't as busy. It's a really cool idea. Thanks. I'd love to have you if you can. Would have run and commented on? Yeah. I've been having a lot of fun with it. Put on the tournament and stream on YouTube? No problem, dude. A lot of fun. Will future noob tournaments include the community maps? I have no idea what I'm going to do with the community maps yet. I haven't looked at them myself. I actually just saw the mod pack go up like 20 minutes before the stream started, so I haven't actually taken a look yet. I will need more time to look at them and see how I feel about them. Is it heavy infantry opening for dwarf warriors, though? Yeah, that's usually like the meta for dwarves, is just, like I said, just kind of stat check your opponent with just how much armored infantry can you reasonably kill. Alright, what is our next map? I should have the tournament pulled up, but I don't. I should use them as a front line with full range lately, since they're that oppressive. The thing is, you need more than just that for your front line. Like, you need more than 5 units for your front line, usually. I don't know, full range with dwarves is a little easy to disrupt. you generally want some Dwarf Warriors, just because you need more width, and you need something to sit on an objective, in my experience. Actually, keeping the reserve for Malkath, yeah. Alright, what's our next map? Next map is Mountains of Morn. Okay. And for everybody's wondering, this is our bracket. So we are up here. This is the winner's side finals between Gianni and Czar. Winner of this will go on to the grand finals to face the winner of the loser side finals down here. So after this game finishes, we'll go down here and we'll cast some of these games. Alright, looks like Czar is hovering the Empire. Now Gianni is hovering Dark Elves. Interesting. Alright, so it looks like we have Empire Dark Elves. And in my experience, this matchup is absolute ass for Dark Elves as well. um, Basically, Dark Elves can't do a whole lot about War Wagons. War Wagons outshoot Scourge Runners, and they can be healed. So it's very, very hard for Dark Elves to remove War Wagons. Bracket quarterfinals, I'll be best of 3 next time. Waiting for 2 eyes being cast in lower bracket realms. I'll think about that. I will consider it. You try with spells, I guess. Yeah, it's pretty rough. The thing is with War Wagons, it's really hard to just kill a model and reduce their combat effectiveness because you can't choose which model you target, even with spells. Even with things like Fireball or Ember Spear, they do good damage. They don't kill them outright, and usually Empire will bring a life caster to heal them up. And the thing is, well, like, you know, War Wagons outshoot all your mobility tools, your Scourge Runners, your Dark Repeaters, and they can just ruin your cavalry. And then obviously the Sunmaker exists, so you can't bring infantry. So you're like, well, what the fuck do I do? They can also bully out things like Malekith or any characters. They kill Cold One Knights very quickly, very easily, and they can are even faster than Cold One Knights, which is really obnoxious. Dark Riders can catch them, but they can't do a lot of damage. They're not AP, and because War Wagons have really buggy hitboxes. And then Dark Shards are okay. If the thing is, if the War Wagons come in range, which they never have to, then they can still juke Dark Shard shots pretty effectively. So it's just really hard for Dark Elves to remove War Wagons. So, for the Force of the Empire, led by Czar, we have Karl Franz, the Emperor himself, wielding Gul Maraz and the Reichland Runefang. Very, very strong melee beater buffs, as well as having Blood Roar from the Griffin mount. And we have, 4 War Wagons, a Life Caster to heal them, with Earth Blood and Regrowth, the Sunmaker, and a Spearman. I hate this build. It's so strong. Like, this is absolutely the best, like, one of the best possible builds you can bring, and it's just really obnoxious for Dark Elves. Dark Elves can't do a whole lot about it. Dark Elves, we have an infantry-heavy build. We got Dark Shards, Black Corsairs, more Dark Shards, more Black Corsairs, a couple of Spears, and the Witch King himself. On a dragon with Soul Stealer, Gaze of Mouth, and his Breath Attack. So these infantry need to make themselves scarce, or the Sunmaker will just tear them apart. So what they need to do is just like hide in these trees until they're ready to fight, or these trees, or back in these little pockets where there's cover. If you march straight up in, you're going to lose all these infantry to the Sunmaker. Because these little hills don't do a whole lot to obstruct the Sunmaker because it has such a high arc. Well, it's a reasonable arc, but these things aren't terribly high obstructions. So we got, what are those? So this crossbowmen. You don't see Empire crossbowmen a whole lot. Curious. Cold One Knights coming in. Problem is, War Wagons 6 speed, and so do Cold One Knights. The problem is, like, if the Cold Knights start chasing the War Wagons are shooting the entire time. And first Sunmaker volley comes in. Does it delete a unit? Yes, it does. And the second part of that volley. Okay, a little less effective, but these guys are already wavering. More and more artillery fire coming in as well. The War Wagons, they won't be lasting that long. And this is very dangerous. Oh, this is so dangerous. These narrow ramps like this are just explosive damage heaven. Or for vortex spells. Fortunately, he doesn't have Dwellers Below, so we can't punish in that way, but still, the War Wagons and the Sunmaker will do very, very good work there. Malekith is chasing after some War Wagons. People taking a hefty amount of damage, and the Emperor himself is coming in. Buffs. Come on, pop those buffs. Come on, Franz, pop those buffs. People are doing the Witch King versus the Emperor himself. There we go. Galmaraz, the Wicked Finger popped, and he'll be laying the smackdown on Malekith. That said, I expect to see a Soul Stealer coming down here pretty soon to try and help out Malekith. If he's not careful, he's not going to be very long for this world. Or I can just hammer in the back of him, as well as Karl Franz doing a ton of damage to him in the front. There's the Soul Stealer, heal him up, but if he can't get off the ground here, he's going to get trapped up and die, especially with the Spear support coming in. Soul Stealer does tag the War Wagons, as well as Franz. And, yes, Model, nope, Model didn't die. Nope, never mind. These guys can be healed up back to full effectiveness, no problem. Okay, Malekith is free. He's being healed up, but there's more War Wagons. Just keep poking at him. The Sunmaker is exacting its toll upon the Dark Elf infantry, and the Empire has already leapt to a 1,500 gold lead. Malekith is coming in, trying to deal with more War Wagons. He's just taking so much damage from the War Wagons and Franz. It's very, very rough for the Dark Elves. Yeah, he doesn't have another Soul Stealer off cooldown for a good minute or so. So if he's not careful, he could die here very, very quickly. He has some Spear support coming in. I'd love to see those Cold One Knights come over here and bail him out. Maybe lock down the Emperor and try to kill him off. But no, looks like Malekith will just be slinking away, trying to survive before he routes off. With all his Empire shooting, it's really rough. Sunmaker firing in on those Cold One Knights. Cold One Knights can't be left there to sit there, yeah. Outrider Grenades just coming in. More and more Cold One Knights can tie up in spears. War Wagons need to just run away, as well as those Outrider Peters. But the thing is, they're fast enough that they can, in fact, outrun the whatchamacallit, Cold Knights. Our friends getting targeted by bolt throwers. I don't expect they'll be that accurate against him flying, or they'll just friendly fire Malekith. You know, Dark Elves are quite treacherous. You shoot your king, oh well. It's all in pursuit of the glory of Cain, right? Dark Elves have taken all 3 objectives for the time being, though, but unfortunately that doesn't equate to a lot of a ticket lead just yet, and Malekith this low. Even if he does manage to get Franz off his tail, he's going to be in a really, really rough spot. Dark Elves are pushing the Empire back pretty far, but they're just down 3-1 in value. Cold Knights, and like I said, Cold Knights, they're on these War Wagons, and they're just not dealing damage, because War Wagons have janky-ass hitboxes. Like, look at this shit. Like, they're just not taking hits. They stop and fight, they'll die pretty quickly, but now they're stuck up in spears, and the Cold Knights are fighting in the trees, so they're not going to be doing a whole lot of damage. Sunmaker still has ammo. How much damage has this thing already done? So I got 1,000. Just going to keep tearing apart all these Dread Spears, Bleak Swords, Dark Shards, whatever can get its missiles on. The Franz has landed in the backfield and he's surrounded by Dark Riders, actually taking a ton of damage. Jeez. I missed that. I don't know what happened there. Malekith's actually doing a ton of damage. Soulstealer looks like came down and healed up Malekith a little bit, as well as damaging off Franz. Franz probably won't be able to get in the air. He shouldn't be with the cav on him. So if they can actually tie down and kill the Emperor, that'll be a ton of value for them. Oh, the Dark Shards. Is the Dark Shards what killed them? No? Who killed Franz? Who did that much damage? Was it just Malekith? Yeah, I guess it was just Malekith. That's very impressive. Maybe it was the bolt throwers. I'm curious what chunked out Franz that hard. Anyway, even if they can kill Franz, though, the War Wagons are still such a problem. How do you have a fucking angle here? How do you Empire fucking sharpshooters have an angle here? What is this bullshit? Show me this bullshit. Okay. That's... okay. Fuck that unit. Okay, a lot of shots are hitting the hill. Okay, good. They should be sharp. Okay, that's good. Good. So that is such bullshit if that can hit. Franz is getting healed up. He's getting a regrowth cast on him. So he'll be back to full strength and be able to just go duke out the Witch King once more. What is this cav unit? Is this outright grenade launchers? Why are they chasing the cold... wait, what is... oh, the banner's just fucked up. Okay, they are chasing the outright grenade launchers. Knights of the Blazing Sun are charging into Dread Spears. Not a great engagement for them, but their armor value should help them just survive against the non-AP Spear unit. Dark Elves have accrued about 500 objective tickets before the Empire's accrued any. Harpies coming in. They should do good work against these crossbowmen. Again, I'd love to see these be the Crows of Cain. The ROR is just so much better. War Wagons actually have taken a ton of damage and are getting shut down pretty effectively. Well, these two. Two on the far side of the map are still doing quite well. Still have a ton of ammo to keep shooting at things with. And the Sunmaker is actually running low on ammo. Which is good for the Dark Elves, but it's already just chewed through so much of their infantry. Big old bluff in the center. Where is Malekith? Where's the Witch King? Okay. I'd like to see him come over here and try to get a nice Soul Stealer right in this kind of blob or in this area. You really want to be casting Soul Stealers off cooldown as much as you can just to heal Malekith up so he's not at risk of imminent death, which he kind of is at the moment. Bolt throwers, what are you firing into? Just still on Franz. Just sat on Franz the entire game. One of the objectives has flipped over to the force. The Empire at the center. But with all these Dark Shards coming in, they should be able to shoot off these Knights of the Blazing Sun, as well as Sigmar Suns, pretty effectively. Dark Shards do an excellent job carrying an armored cav when they're allowed to shoot at them. But the problem is they will be shooting their own Dark Riders in the ass, just completely negating any shields they might have. They do in fact have, or in fact the shielded variant. And the Sunmaker is still firing, although I believe that was its last volley. Good riddance. Get that fucking unit out of here. I am so sick of the Empire if you haven't figured it out. But on both sides we have missile units just chunking into the center fight. And honestly I feel like we're doing more harm than good. Both sides. They're just shooting and friendly firing a lot. But like I said, Dark Shards will do good work against the Knights of the Blazing Sun, but doesn't look it's going to be enough, and now they are just free pickings. Now the cav unit's gone to protect them. Knights of the Blazing Sun can run over both these Dark Shards pretty easily. Soul Stealer coming in. If Malekith can get in there and terror out him, that'd be great, but he can't with Franz nearby. Which, actually, Franz isn't that nearby, so yeah. You could absolutely just try and drop and kill those Knights of the Blazing Sun and terror out them off, although that Soul Stealer is doing a ton of damage. Breath Attack as well. Really, really good damage on Knights of the Blazing Sun, and that opens the door for Malekith and the Dark Elves to actually retake the center objective. More Harpies and Black Crusaders trying to deal with these War Wagons. As well as a couple of spears. War Wagons are not a great melee chariot. Unlike things like Scourge Runners or Bear Sleds, they actually have pretty garbage melee stats. That's their one weakness. So, using them in melee is kind of a waste, but now you've got the Zinlur's Reichsguard coming to saturate them in, and they will do a ton of damage against all this lightly armored infantry. On the right side, okay, Dark is still holding pretty safely on the right side, although it's honestly just kind of because neither side has decided to take it. Outright Grenadier is being summoned in to try and contest its objective. Bleak Sword is coming to contest it, but if those are grenade launchers, yeah, they're going to destroy that Bleak Sword. That Bleak Sword can't stand on that objective. It'll die if it tries. So the Dark Elves should be able to retake the center objective. I'd love to see Malekith, if he has any Gaze of Malice or Breath Attacks left, just come up over the side and just destroy this line of crossbows. Do you have any of those abilities left? You have 1 gaze of mouth and the breath attack. I'd love to see it right there. Just come sit on this mountain, right down the line. You can destroy those crosses and then land on them and tear out them. The Malekith one, too. I think you just sack this objective at this point. Just say, you know, this is done. This is Empire territory. Redirect everything you have to the center. You can take the center. You're already committed heavily to it. Don't commit more resources off the side, because, I mean, these Cold Knights will trade fine. This Strikes card. The War Wagons are here. They have more and more cav support. Like, they just have more resources committed over there than you, so just leave it. Come to the center where you're already winning. Come hold objective 3. Get some cav on those Outriders, which is good. Oh, no. Was that a breath attack? Was that Malekith's breath attack on the Flagellants? Yeah, I'd really love to see on those crossbows. Crossbows are a bigger threat. Tatter Souls you can deal with in melee much more easily. You don't need to like chase them and catch them. Yeah, okay. I'd love to see these Dark Shards just come and sit on this objective corner to apply the capture rate so you can capture very quickly. As it is, you have to chase off these crossbowmen, and then you have to deal with the Tatter Souls before you can take this objective very easily. Bolt throwers are just sat on the enemy cav. Where is Franz? He was chasing Harpies. Okay, there he is. Malekith, do you really want that fight, Malekith? I don't know if that's Franz's buffs. If Franz's buffs are available, he will beat the brakes off of Malekith from this, even from this relatively low HP point. Where is Franz heading? He's just running away. Okay, maybe Franz doesn't want that fight. Empire Crossmen are being pushed back, and that'll allow the Dark Elves to take this objective, but more War Wagons coming in. Like I said, War Wagons actually don't do that whole much of melee, but they do have 4 capture rate. For reference, infantry have 5, so if they can just sit on this objective before the Dark Elves take it, they'll be able to take it, hold it pretty heavily. Dark Elves are able to take it just in time, but the War Wagons should be able to just come in, you know, sit right here, and just take the objective back. Or even push through the infantry. You're really not scared of the infantry, like the War Wagons just push through. Dark Elves are actually getting a bit of a resurgence on the left side. All this cav stuck in the choke against the crossmen will getting recharged by these Dark Riders. The problem is they don't have any AP here, except the Dark Shards, which aren't exactly firing. They're a bit stuck up at the moment. So it's going to be a bit of a rough trade for the Dark Elves. They should be able to take that objective back reasonably quickly. Though with just the tatters of infantry, they don't have a ton of capture rate. We do have some shade. Oh, that's perfect. It's going to bring them right here, get them on the point, shooting into those cav. They'll do a ton of work. Franz is being chased by Malekith and some Harpies. Looks like a pit or a Soul Steal was cast on him to get a little bit more healing for Malekith. Dark Elves are holding this objective and the right side, but War Wagons coming in as well as Spearmen. This is actually pretty close. Dark Elves are really hefty ticket lead. They got like 3 times the objective tickets to their opponent. War Wagons taking a ton of damage. Like I said, they're not the greatest melee chariot. Their melee stats are pretty garbage. They don't have anti-infantry like most cav do, or most chariots do. If Dark Elves are able to take objective number 1 here, they could force Empire into a 3-cap situation pretty quickly. That's it. They are losing in the middle. I don't know if there's any Soul Stealers left in the pocket, but there's just such a juicy Soul Stealer right there if Malekith has one. Come on, Malekith. I think he's used them all up at this point, probably. But this is a bit of an awkward engagement for Malekith. Like the Tatter Souls are ITP and the War Wagons are high enough health, they're not going to tear out. Usually with Malekith, you want to just have him land infantry to tear out them. You don't want to have him stuck in the fight. Harpies are not going to last long against the Emperor of the Empire. Dark Elves do manage a 3-cap briefly. Empire takes back the center objective, so it's still a 2-1 cap, but okay. The Empire has to 3-cap. The Empire has to 3-cap, so as Dark Elves, I'd really love to see you just commit everything to one side or the other. Probably this one. There's not a lot of Empire presence over here. They've got a lot of infantry dedicated to the far side. Just start summoning things and sending them over here. Bring whatever you can over to the left side. Get rid of that bolt thrower. It's going to die. Just desummon it if you can, otherwise just let it die. And like anything over here, just send it to the objective. Like, still take fights over here, fight for this, but just keep reinforcing objective number 1. If you can hold objective number 1 for a couple minutes, you've won the game as Dark Elves. Malekith coming in, perfect. Get the terror routes on this Empire Knights, get rid of the Zentler's Reichsguard, although I think they're ITP, are they not? Yeah, they are ITP, but Malekith can still finish them off pretty easily, especially with some fire support from the Shades. What do we have coming in here? Outright grenade launchers, those Shades need to be very careful. Actually, maybe not. Maybe they can outshoot them. They do a spread formation as well as stocks, though I'm not sure if the Empire knows they're there just yet. Yeah, now that objective number 3 is lost. Is that 3? I can't see that because the freaking... Yeah, objective number 3 is lost. Just divert everything over here. Stop sending Corsairs to the middle, please. Please stop sending Corsairs to the middle. They don't outcap the War Wagons. Actually, they could do pretty well here, but the problem is the War Wagons are just going to chip away at them so easily. The Empire reinforcements come in so well. I don't know, there's not actually a whole lot the Empire has in the middle here. Maybe the Dark Elves can contest it. And honestly, if Dark Elves are able to force the Empire to contest, that means they're not sending resources over here. The problem is all you got over here is a Shade and an outright grenade launcher, or any cav unit can come and kill that Shade very, very easily, so it's a bit risky. If this was a spear, I'd say sure, pressure the center, but without actually any holding power on objective number 1, it's really, really rough to actually try to retake 2. The thing is, when you don't need to retake an objective, it's really risky to do so. Like, it's not always a bad idea, but like, you got to be able to take it. You got to be able to put a lot of pressure, and you're just not in over the command position. The value is pretty even, actually. The Empire got a hefty lead, but once the Sunmaker got desummoned and the War Wagons got shut down, the Dark Elves actually just grind a lot better. Their infantry units and their missile units tend to trade very, very well into the Empire. So once you can deal with those really problematic tools, you can actually get in a pretty good spot. Dark Elves are actually recapping Objective 3. It looks like a Bleak Sword rallied in the trees over here and just walked back on. And these Spearmen have a bit of a C9. Like, they just got an attack order on something off of an objective, and they just chased it off. It's very common and very easy to do. But now, okay, now they're coming back. I wonder if there's anything that could actually help them do that. Okay, Shades are killing off these Empire Knights. Good, good, good. And Empire has to retake an objective, or has a 3-cap in the next minute or so, or they're in a lot of trouble. That said, they do have the capture rate advantage still in the middle. I'd love to see Malekith start killing off something. Kill the War Wagons if you can. What is that ability? Is that a... Oh, Soul Steal. Okay, yeah. Kill off the War Wagons if you can. Maybe kill them with grenade launchers, but... Again, with the wonky hitboxes of the War Wagons, Malekith should be able to tear them apart. And actually, okay, he's doing a bit. But... Grenade launchers are firing in, but they're going to be pushed back. And honestly, the thing is, if the grenade launchers are pushed back, if they push off the point, the Corsairs will start to cap very, very quickly. And the Empire is in a really rough spot. That's so we have some War Wagons coming over here to try and fight the Shades. I honestly have no idea who wins this melee engagement. They're doing okay, but the Shades should be able to tear them apart pretty quickly, hopefully. Again, I am very biased to the Dark Elves because fuck the Empire. This War Wagon bullshit is just so dumb. I'm so sick of it. I'm also a Dark Elf main, so you know, not biased. Not biased one bit. But the Dark Elves are actually retaking the center point, and I think that's going to be the final nail in the coffin for the Empire. I don't think the Empire has the tools on the field to actually retake the objective, but this is what they need. This is exactly what they need. Knights of the Blazing Sun coming in. They can run right over these Shades and take objective number 1. But can they do it fast enough? Especially with Malekith floating in the area. Some Harpies over here can come and intercept them as well. Kill some Dark Riders. If you can just slow them down, you don't need to kill them. You just need to keep them in a fight off the objective. Yeah, oh, this is really brutal. Getting all of this stuff trapped up. If you can have the Corsairs come in and just bog this down, there's not a whole lot of space to get around them to actually get on the objective. So the Empire's going to have a hard time taking. And also, you need to get these Reichsguard over here. It doesn't matter what else is over here in the trees. Just take the center objective. And yeah, Dark Riders are just intercepting the Knights of Blazing Sun, so the Shades can shoot them. If you can keep them off the objective, like I said, that's all you got to do. Get to the point in the game where value matters a lot less, and what matters is actually taking objectives in space. Now, can these Corsairs actually hold long enough? They're pretty high health. If these Corsairs can hold this blob in place, I don't think the Empire can retake the center objective. I think we're in a pretty good spot for the Empire here. Or for the Dark Elves here, excuse me. I think the Empire might just be out of luck. They've got to take very, very soon. They've got to take 2 objectives. They just don't have the tools in place to do it. I think that is going to be game 2 going to the Dark Elves. Yeah. I think the big problem here is, like, Franz could probably still beat the brakes off of Malekith here. With his buffs popped, he actually has just way higher dueling stats. As well as just, you know, good deal of HP and just the bonus versus large. I think you could have taken that fight instead of having Franz run away from Malekith for half the game. I think you could have just taken that heads-up fight and won. But as it is, that'll be game 2 going to Gianni's Dark Elves. That'll be Gianni taking the game 2-0. Very well played. Like I said, that's a pretty rough matchup for Dark Elves. That map does help them a little bit more. But it's still very, very hard to deal with War Wagons. So it's still a pretty impressive play and good recovery from that initial bit of a blunder with Malekith. Being chunked out by Franz and the War Wagons. Crossbows were an interesting pick. You don't see Empire crossbows a whole lot. Usually you see Huntsmen if you need like high DPS or you just want the dirt cheap archers. So crossbows are kind of a weird middle ground that you don't see a whole lot. But they seem to do pretty well. Malekith did well as always. Corsairs did pretty well. Dark Shards did reasonably. The Cold One Night play was not bad. And looks like our players are gone. And looks like that will be Johnny taking the series 2-0. I believe we should have another game ready for us. Who is pinging me in Discord? Alright, so heading back over the bracket for a moment. So that was, again, that was our upper bracket finals. So now Gianni will be advancing to the grand finals, and Czar will be knocked down to the losers bracket finals. So he'll be down here playing whoever comes out on top of our losers bracket. Currently, we've got Serka facing off against Samurai Style, and we've got Ghoul Baby facing off against Leech Lord. So we'll be spectating the next game winners of those. I believe those games are already in progress. We're going to have to wait here for a little bit. Also, thank you for the follow, Nogo Grizz. I think that's how it's pronounced. Yeah, we're going to have to wait for a little bit here. Get another game ready, fortunately. So what are you guys up to in chat? The idea arose to treat dark arts, but aim point with so many shells. I have no idea what you're talking about. Haven't played ogres yet? Ogres are so bad, my guy. It takes like a pretty skilled ogre player to actually compete with most of the other factions. Not be deterred. Good for you. So greedy, who isn't? If Dark Elf takes mid, they probably win at the point. Yeah. One small thing to try to move the camera a bit more smoothly. There's an option called cinematic move or something on the camera settings. I will take a look at that. Reducing the camera speed would help also. Thanks. Yeah, no problem. The cinematic movement under camera settings. I will take a look at that. Where is under camera setting? I have to do it in game, don't I? Expected result? Yeah. Like I said, that matchup was generally pretty Empire favorite, though the map wasn't great for them, admittedly. Yeah, Dark Elves played pretty well. So, we look at camera settings. Indeed, training is great that the bound people in top 100 is like. The thing is, top 100 isn't a great metric because there's not that many people that play a lot of tournaments. Like, you can make it to the top 100 pretty easily with just having a terrible win rate, just showing up at a tournament and playing. It's like, yeah, to be in the top 100, you need like 5 wins on the tournament leaderboard, and losses have no indication of that. Assuming I'm talking about the total tavern leaderboard, like losses have no influence on where on your leaderboard standing. It's only wins. So as long as you've had at least 5 wins, you're in the top 100. So if you show up and play, like even if you lose 8 out of 10 games, if you get those 2 wins and play 3 or 4 tournaments, you're gonna be in top 100. Doesn't matter if you are a good player or not. Like you can get top 100 pretty easily. It's like there are people in top 100 with a 20% win rate, and those are people that I wouldn't want to exclude from this tournament if they're interested in playing. Like I wouldn't consider those to be top tier players. So anyway, where is this camera setting? Can you direct me to it, please? I don't actually know what I'm looking for. You said it was cinematic movement under camera setting. This is not camera settings. Why is this on medium? That's why I'm laggy. Sorry, my computer's a potato, so I am getting a new graphics card here reasonably soon, so hopefully by next week we'll have less potato graphics. But for the moment, if I want it to run smoothly, I need to have potato settings. John, you made the doors proud this tourney. We put Dario up to the best 3. Nice. Good job, dude. You put YouTube, guess who moved there. Right. To my other restrictions planned as they were in the second part. What restrictions? What restrictions. I don't know what you're talking about, no-go. So where is this camera setting you were talking about? 'Cause I don't see. Yeah, if you can tell me where that camera setting is, I'll take a look, but I can't find it. Good approach to wagons too. Yeah, it was. Usually it's hard to do just the infantry heavy build because the Sunmaker, but he actually was able to use the map terrain pretty effectively to deny a lot of the Sunmaker value. If you do that on a map like Itza or like Blackheart, where there's no cover, you're in a lot of trouble against the Sunmaker. Alright. While we're waiting on our next set of players, I am going to shamelessly plug my other shit. I'm doing a bunch of YouTube content. I've been posting a bunch of educational videos explaining basics of Total War multiplayer and how to approach competitive play, how ideal players think about take the map, certain units, how they play, what roles they function in army, as well as doing guides on specific factions and how they play in Domination. So if you're just going to get a Domination or Total War multiplayer in general, check it out. It's a great resource. I'm trying to make it a great resource for people to actually help learn the game, because we don't have a lot of that in this community. A lot of the content for Total War is just just battle replays, which are fine, but not a lot of educational content to actually go in and teach you the game. So I'm trying to fix that. That's on my YouTube. If you're on Twitch, !YouTube will give you the link to that. Check it out. Actually, I'm going to do something really sneaky here. Might get us some games to watch. Hold on a second. I'm attempting something. I realized Samurai was streaming his game in Discord, so we're gonna lurk. I'm gonna take a look at his game from his POV. I apologize if the quality is really poor. I can't do much about it. It is greenskins? What else? Okay, the game's almost over, but looks like What Else by Nersa are up pretty heavily. I don't know. See if they're down in objective tickets, but they are holding 2 objectives at the moment. But they do have to 3 cap. The greenskins, honestly, they could just pile in on that left side objective. Don't know why you're really contesting objective 1 at this point. You only need to hold 1 objective, so it's usually almost always better to reinforce an objective you already have than to take an objective. Try to retake an objective you don't have, especially when you have a hefty little nest egg of units over there anyway. And that said, Widows don't have a lot of holding power on this objective themselves. Just got a couple of Shuriken. If you can just flood the point with infantry, you can actually outcap them pretty reasonably well. And actually do some good damage to those Eternal Guard. If you can get some more Orc Boys up there, pretty quickly you could retake. The value is ever so slightly in Samurai Style's favor. It's up about 1,000. Well, that doesn't matter a ton at this point. And honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing, well, I don't know. A little risky to try to get a cheeky back cap at this point against a faction with decent cav like Wood Elves, but at that point it's sitting there completely unprotected, and it's very tempting in my eyes. Yeah, I'd really love to see these reinforcements all coming down on objective number 3. I don't know if some Kurnos will actually tear out Warzag pretty quickly if he is in fact mounted, which I can't quite tell. Next Skulker's coming up, but I don't know, Green's have to hold on for still a good 3 minutes or so. So, could still, I think that's how my math works. Math is hard sometimes, but it's actually pretty tense. Because those Treekin are, if you ever played Treekin are really hard to kill in melee. They're just really tanky. They don't do a ton of damage, but really hard to kill. So, unless the Orcs can get a ton of capture rate on the objective pretty soon, they're going to lose that on the left side. They're going to lose out on the left side pretty quickly. The Wild Hunters of Kronos on the right side is going to be very hard to get reinforcements there. They can just intercept and do quite a bit of damage. They're a very elite cavalry unit. They do reasonable damage. Although, honestly, Wood Elf Cav just isn't. It ain't what it used to be. It doesn't do as much damage as it honestly reasonably should. But jeez, that took half health off the nasty Skulker on the charge. Jeez. But Wood Elves are actually capping out on objective 3, and Greenskins aren't actually managing to retake on objective number 1 at the moment. So this actually could go in Wood Elves' favor pretty quickly. They are catching up in damage value, and they have taken. That's a 3 cap. Greenskins really need to take back an objective very, very soon, or they're going to lose out on their advantage. If they can't actually cap, they're going to lose out on the. They're not going to be able to force Wood Elves into a 3 cap situation anymore. So if they can't take an objective here in the next 30 seconds or so, they're in a lot of trouble. That said, they do have a cap weight advantage on objective 1, but it's very, very slight. So as soon as that Night Goblin breaks at the front, they're probably going to lose their objective cap weight, and even so, they're capping very, very slowly. They need to cap a lot faster to actually take this. This is looking really rough. I think the Wood Elves have this. I don't know that Greenskins can actually stay on this point. The value has equalized, and honestly, when against a faction like Greenskins, your value is usually deflated because Greenskins are out so easily. You don't kill off their entire unit, so you don't get the full value, so... Anyhow, that Night Goblin... Okay, Greens are still capping with so much cav coming in. The cav should be able to equalize the capture rate. And yeah, Wood Elves have the capture rate value on you. And I think that's going to be the game going to the Wood Elves. I think they've got it. I don't see a way for Greens to actually reinforce fast enough. And I would have really liked to see, commit to one of the points. Trying to contest both when you don't have to, it's really rough. Just reinforce entirely on, in my opinion, on objective 3, the objective you already have. You're in a much better state than trying to retake an objective when you really don't need to. Retaking an objective is just hard, especially in the late game like that. So, if you don't have to, you really don't want to. Well, it's kind of. But the thing is, yeah, Greenskins have to take it back at least 2 objectives now. So, they have to take objective 1 and either 2 or 3 as well. Orion Resummon is a little bit interesting. He's not going to do a whole lot at this point in the game. He doesn't have much capture weight, and he's not going to get value quickly. So, I wouldn't mind actually seeing if that cav blob on the right for Greenskins can actually take objective 1 and then go book to objective 2. They could actually still pull this game back, but they have to act very, very quickly. Actually, Greenskins may be able to get a capture rate advantage on objective 3, but I don't know if it's gonna be enough fast enough. Yeah, come on, send those Spider Riders to objective number 2. You gotta cap 2 objectives, Samurai style. Come on, you know better. Go cap objective 2. It's free real estate. The Streakin aren't gonna get there in time, but you gotta. Nah, doesn't look like it's gonna happen in time. You gotta go good on the objective quickly. Okay, they take objective number 1, but they gotta take another objective in like the next few seconds. I'd rather see light cav be summoned honestly than the heavy cav, because heavy cav is not Vanguard. But this entire blob needs to book it for objective number 2, but I don't think it's gonna happen. Yeah, they have to 3 cap now. It's too late, and that will be game going to the Wood Elves, led by Neriska. I don't know that name. I don't know how to pronounce that. Pinged in Discord. And that is the game going to Neriska's Wood Elves. And now we're back to our game. Well, the actual client. I'm getting pinged in Discord. I need to do admin things momentarily. Alright, so has the game on the other side of the bracket finished up? Yes, it has. We should be able to get floppy, and there's an invite code from Leech Lord. Or sorry, from Ghouls Baby. Who did in fact win their side, so it will be whoever we just saw. Names are hard versus Ghouls Baby. It is it's Cersa. It's Malekith on screen. Oh no, that's not Malekith, that's Iridescent Horrors. Can't remember what blocker we have these days. Your Plabsala didn't know you stream? Yeah, I'm streaming for a couple months now, it's pretty fun. How are the games? Pretty good so far. We had some pretty close Dark Elf games, which I am always all about. Love me some Dark Elves. All of the wrong buttons. Maybe saying on the right side of the controls menu. Do you mean the classic Total War camera? Is that what you're talking about? This over here? Because this won't have any effect because I have debug camera enabled. Or, oh, do you mean cinematic smoothing, which I already have all the way up. I don't know if these camera settings actually have any effect because I have the debug camera active. I'm not using the default camera. I think those are default camera settings. I think if I want to change the camera I'm using, I have to go into the INI files, which I can't do while the game is open. I didn't join as a spectator. Silly me. Oh, I realized now that I had the blocker up while I was asking you what if this while I was gesturing with my cursor. Yeah, these over here on the right. If this is what you're talking about. It is what you're talking about. I'm pretty sure it doesn't have any effect for me because I have debug cam enabled. Thank you for the follow, Smudge Punch. Love the vids. Use the Lucifer build you showed to get my first win today. Hey, happy to hear it. The game was really close. Nice. Need more Lizardman Dom. Awesome. I find the old restriction links are outdated, but the consolation is that the orcs have 6 purple units, the ogre has 2, makes the game not in favor of the ogre. If you limit spell units to 3 slots and lords like Malekith and Belcor count as a slot, perhaps we see different lords. Oh, if they count as RORs? I know nothing about these rules. These are before my time, so I'm not familiar with these rules. But basically, so you're saying that because Greensons have a ton of RORs and ogres only have, was it 2 or 3, that it's very favorable for Greenskins, and that because that should limit RORs. Is that what you're saying? Thanks for the follow, Mars. Appreciate it. Is that what you're getting at, No-Go? And Cersa should be getting here pretty soon. It just says they need a 5-minute break. That last match was a was a heart attack. Non-stop. Alright, so we'll be taking a quick, giving the players a quick breather, which is fine. Yeah, so back to the Regiment of Round conversation. I don't think having more Regiments of Renown is what makes that match. Like, obviously that's not the point, but like, there's a very small subset of Regiments of Renown that are actually like that massive of difference makers that actually perform that differently from the base unit. Most of the time when matchups are bad, it's not because of one unit, it's because of a unit that can be spammed. Like, war wagons. You bring 4 war wagons, and they're a problem because there's 4 of them. If only one war wagon performed at that level, it's not a big problem. So our wars aren't usually a huge problem because there's only one of them. The exception being things like the Sunmaker. But this kind of system doesn't even restrict things like that very much. It's just bring it to 1. Most factions, yeah. I don't know. I find that to be a weird thing to limit because I don't think RORs are hugely impactful. Each faction has like one that's amazing, and then there's 1 or 2. There's maybe like 1 to 4 that you consider in certain situations. Because like like I said, the Empire brings the Sunmaker, Skaven have the Avalanche Mortars. Like there's a lot of times just one that's like a must pick most of the time, and the most like more than half of them you almost never even consider. And I don't think it punishes too much the factions that don't have very many. The Game 3 factions, I don't think that's what punishes them too much. I think their roster is just very limited because obviously they haven't had any DLCs yet. They just don't have much content on their rosters. And like, Slaanesh, for example, Slaanesh is very, very strong at the moment, and they don't even use RORs. Like, none of their RORs are even any good. Except, Mirror Guard's okay. But that's not even a unique one. Like, that's one they share with Walk. But like, we talk about, yeah, the Slaanesh RORs just aren't very good. And Slaanesh is still, like, top tier. Same with Counts. Counts have some okay ones, but like, it's like the Devils of Schwarzkopf they almost always take. And the infantry ones are nice, but they're not essential. Like, Counts would still be fine without them. I don't think they're that. I don't think RORs are that oppressive of a difference maker. I think, yeah. Even so, it will be evened out more as time goes on because they will be adding more and more RORs for the Game 3 factions, so. Keep hearing about these new turrets from Turin. Finally got to catch one. Nice. Happy to have you here. Also good to know that Turin's actually been shouting me out. That's pretty cool. Also more than 3 identically. It's the card to be considered a slot. I've said this before on stream, but like for the newbie tournaments in particular, I'm against any kind of community imposed rules. For the newbie tournaments, I want it to be anybody who owns the game can boot it up and start playing. I don't want you to have to go read a Google Doc on rules to understand what's going on. And like the description we have for the tournament on Total Tavern already is like a bit much. And that's just talking about like how the tournament works. Not even about how most of it's not even about like gameplay restrictions. Like that also opens the door for like rule breaks and drama, and just that's what Domination got us away from. Like that's what the problem of land battles and what made land battles such a pain for tournament hosts. And honestly for players as well, like just doing that kind of stuff, and so I'm very much against adding that to my tournaments if at all possible. If it's something egregious, like, you know, Lore of Nehekara passive, just giving infinite ammo, yeah, we'll ban it, but like that's as much I want to do for rules. And the same unit makes the game a bit monotonous. Maybe, but the game's always been that way and people still like it. Getting me. Yeah, basically I want these tournaments to be as rules light as possible, so any kind of restriction like that, I'm generally against. Especially since there's so many like, if it was one thing where you can like say, okay, no more than 3 of any one type of unit, that's, you know, an easy blanket statement that's simple. Not that's a good rule, but like it's a simple rule to implement. With things like that, it'd be like, well, some things could count as 3, some things count as 4, and like then it just gets very complicated. And then we get the Google Docs out, and it just becomes that much harder for somebody who's never played before to show up to a tournament and play. Which, like I said, is my goal with these events. But anybody who has the game, they can boot it up and play. There's no other hassle. See, I not lower the unit caps, stop spamming Horse Masters, etc. Maybe. I wouldn't be against that, but honestly, I'd rather see Horse Masters nerfed. The other thing is CA. One thing CA does, love it or hate it, is they have standardized unit caps. So, 360-degree missile units are capped to 6 for every faction. No faction can bring more than 6. That's the same. If they wanted to cap Horse Masters, for example, they'd have to lower that just for Warriors of Chaos. And then you have that imbalance of like, well, they can only bring 3, but you know, Lizards can bring 6, or Dark Elves can bring 6. And so I kind of like that as a simplicity element where like everything is the same, like the standard is the same across the factions. Because let's face it, this game is complicated enough. Having unique rules for each faction just makes it more complicated. So I'm generally a fan of keeping things as simple across the board as we can and as uniform. I'd rather just see the units that are problematic be nerfed. All right, we got our players in. Nice. This is still a best of 1. I should change the nameplates. Yeah, re-involved into the rules just bad. I agree. Is it my goal across my newbie tournaments, my YouTube content, is to make this game approachable for new players, and that is just the antithesis of being beginner friendly. I think that's how the name's spelled. SerYca. CRY. Yep. Okay, that's their name. And then we've got tools. And we don't need scores because this is best of 1. No shot we have Greenskin Wood Elves again, do we? Be kind of funny. I'm here for it. Okay, cool. This is Coast. Has Nersa picked it? Are they just changing factions to mess with me? All of these are possible. It'd be cool if CA would listen to more feedback from players, at least the veterans. Yeah, communication would be nice. Like, just, yeah. Communication always makes things feel better. Like, as it is, they take feedback from, like, a very few select sources. And it's like, well, these people have an above average influence on the game, and nobody else does. As any, basically. So it's like, well, I hope these people have their best interests at heart. And for the most part, they do, but, like, if you happen to disagree about what's right for the game compared to, like, the people who have influence, it's like, well, sucks to suck. And it'd be really nice to know, like, what CA stance on a lot of things is, like, what they're feeling, what they're thinking about, what they're planning. Just having that open line of communication would feel a lot better as a player. Just knowing what they're thinking, knowing what they're leaning towards. Think, hey, yeah, we know counts are really OP. We know Slanesh Cav is really OP. We're looking at nerfs for it. Like, that would be nice to know they're doing. Or things like, I don't know, problematic spells, or there's just not a lot of communication, and it feels bad. It's like one blog post maybe every month, if we're lucky. Names aren't centered. Who they are listening, I don't know. They probably have their hands full, and they're just advancing slowly. Yeah. Like I said, we don't know, and that's what feels bad. Like, if they told us, they're like, hey, we heard your feedback, even if they said, hey, fuck your feedback, like, that would feel better than just not knowing. Like, if they said, hey, we hear you, fuck you, like, at least then we know. It just sucks not knowing. And yeah, they do definitely have their hands full, and they are, like, predominantly a single player company, so they're not experts on running a multiplayer game. Should they have similar communication lesson? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, they do have their hands full. They're not a okay. Let's see what we do with Wood Elves Vampire Coast, but like they're not a multiplayer company. That's not their specialty. So it's all the people that probably don't know, that just don't have that experience balancing a multiplayer game. They're figuring it out as they go. Hey, Darkside, thanks for the raid, dude. Appreciate it. How's your stream go? What were you guys up to? Darkside 25th doesn't know, also does Total War content, and I think you do some other variety content as well, Darkside, if I'm not mistaken. But you and Prophet do your Violet League land battle tournaments on Saturdays, don't you? So, the message for land battle tournaments, check out Darkside. Darkside and Prophet Warrior do tournaments together every weekend. The 3-person co-op with Be'lakor Fest is Throt. Sounds fun. Just terrorizing the Northern Empire and Bretonnia, I suppose. Being an absolute menace. That's going pretty well so far. Gone fairly smoothly. We've gotten like 1.5 games so far. We had the upper bracket finals. Now we've got this game, which is the best of one. Then we'll have the lower bracket finals, and then we'll have the grand finals still to go. We'll be here a while longer. Company's in position they have to listen. Company is in a position they have to listen to players' feedback to balance their stuff. It's 90% going to turn out really badly, IMO. Essentially. Yeah. I'm sure they listen to some form of feedback. It's just a matter of whose feedback they listen to. Because, I mean, obviously they listen to Turin. But I would hope it's not just Turin, because as much as Turin is a great guy and knows a lot about this game, he doesn't know everything. So you need multiple perspectives. And he does have, like, everybody has their own biases, so it's better to have, like, a pool of feedback rather than just one person. So it is going to be Coast Wood Elves. This matchup probably favors Wood Elves. Coast have always hated just mass amounts of cheap archers because of their just light armor across the board, aside from Death Guard. Hopping off the stream. Good luck, ghouls. Good luck, ghouls, and thank you for not being a filthy stream sniper. And thank you for the follow, Jareth Core. As per usual, sorry if I butchered that. I do that a lot. Alright, so for the Forces of the Wood Elves, led by Nersa, or Cirsa. Names are hard, dude. We have a Spellweaver of Life with Dwellers of Balance and Earthblood, as well as Loic's Blessing. If you want to spot, ooh, go and spot will maybe go and snipe some artillery pieces with that spell. Glade Guard, Starfire Shaft, Glade Guard. Bunch of cheap archers. Like I said, cheap archers are the bane of Coast. They're all very big, like all their just big targets and low armor. And powder units tend to trade poorly into archers. Archers tend to have higher DPS but less accuracy. That doesn't really matter in an infantry missile duel. As well as not having line of sight problems. We got the Raise the Frozen Heart Dryads, as well as just some basic Dryads. And is that it? So we got a Shriekin as well. And some Eternal Guard with shields. Not a bad build. Definitely a lot of tools to chew through all the armored Coast front line. The Forces of Coast, led by Goulsby. We have Bombers, we have handguns, Queen Bess, Depth Guard, Polearms, more handguns, more Depth Guard. Led by, where's the Lord? Vampire Fleet Admiral Polearms, a vampire. So with Invocation and Drown Dead, usually you see the pistol variant, because the pistol variant has the Black Periap item, which just gives you a ton of WOM. Kind of curious what the Polearm is for. Obviously, it'll make it a better duelist and a little more resilient against any kind of large sniping characters. But typically, you don't see melee sniping from Wood Elves. The only real melee characters they have are Orion and Draika. Draika's small, and I think Orion is... I can't remember if Orion is small or large. This is... Yeah. Yes. The Wood Elf player is Cirsa. That is their name on Discord. There's their name on Total Tavern. Their team name is simply different. And I don't know how to pronounce any of the names because words are hard. Alright. Queen Bess can be quite a menace for Wood Elves. It's very, very good at killing things like Glade Guard. That said, I'm kind of wondering if like 3 mortars wouldn't be better. Mortars have always also been very, very good against cheap archers. So the splash damage is very good. But if you take Queen Bess, and what I suspect is going to happen, just flip Queen Bess in this kind of a position and shoot over the hill, you can be very, very safe. And there's no Talons of Kurnos from any Way Watchers, or what's the hero? Way Stalkers is the hero. Way Watchers is the unit. Yeah. So no Talons of Kurnos from those guys to snipe the artillery piece. I see 4 mortars on this map for BP. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking as well. I think mortars would be really, really strong for BP. Gotta get on my pirate gunnery mob. Suspect this Treekin is just gonna go sit on this objective the entire game and just hold it. Yeah, it's fine. Coast really aren't gonna fight on that objective, so you probably send something that's cheaper, but it's fine. Not gonna die to dogs or anything. Or Morn goals or anything like that. So as per usual on Death Pass, it's quite likely that we'll end up just fighting for the center. Both sides just walking up and having a shootout. So Queen Bess firing the first shot in at the Dryads. Okay, Loic's Blessing is popped. Oh, we're gonna get it. Oh, I like this. This guy is entirely invisible. The Coast player cannot see them. It has 140 speed? And here comes the Dwellers below. And this probably one-shots Queen Bess. They see the Cascade, they try to dodge it, but it should do a ton of damage to this crew. And assume it's Overcast. Well, they might not have waited long for it to be an Overcast, actually. And the problem is, they should get an invocation on them immediately. This caster should just walk over here and get an invocation on them and try to keep them alive. Are we going to survive, though? Looks like, yeah, Queen Bess gets away. That was an undercast. That was not an overcast. Probably need to wait a little bit longer to get enough WOM for the overcast. So the one thing about Dryads is they are, in fact, weak to fire, which bombers do a lot of fire. So despite their loose formation, they could actually take a ton of damage if they try to just rush those bombers. They really want to just have their archers just scoot up and shoot the bombers before the Dryads advance. Shoot the bombers, clear the way for the Dryads to just sweep through and kill everything else. Animate Hulks come in. Animate Hulks are just an absolute terror. They're just really, really well statted for their price point, only 500 gold. Light armor, but they do have good melee stats as well as AP damage. Not that AP is super relevant here, but can still do a lot of work in melee. It can be very difficult to remove if your opponent is not well equipped to do so. Dryads come over here to just kind of pressure objective number 3, but you probably don't want to with the depth guard there. So just holding back is a wise choice. Trying to dodge the Queen Bess shot, but it's hard to dodge the Queen Bess shot when it wasn't going to hit in the first place. Queen Bess is wildly inaccurate sometimes, can be really, really hit or miss sometimes. The power of a Hawk unit. They stagger like hell and they dodge most of the shots, so despite that pretty hefty volleys coming in on it, the stagger animations just do a lot of work to keep them from getting hit. I wouldn't mind just kind of landing this Hawk in this bomber unit, then just rushing with Dryads, but that Hawk needs to move. I know you're a life cast and you can heal yourself, but you cannot sit there and take 3 handgunners shooting at you. You really got to move, my friend. Dryads coming up, they should be able to just tear through all the lightly armored chaff. Death Guard will give them some trouble, as will the M8 Hulks, but the infantry will not last long. The bombers do, like I said, fire weakness makes them pretty vulnerable to bombers, and even the crumbling one gets off a volley before it dies off, which is really unfortunate. That said, the spread formation is coming in clutch. Doing quite a bit to keep them alive, preventing them to take too much damage from those explosions. Yeah, now it's trying to focus fire the depth guard, which is kind of unfortunate. Like, you really want to be shooting these squishy targets, but at the same time, you don't really have another choice to deal with the depth guard. Actually, these are Starfire shafts. They are AP, so actually those are an excellent choice to actually shoot those depth guard. Can do a really good number. And we got the Wild Hunters of Karnos coming in. Interesting choice. They are anti-large, so they will kill the Iamate Hulks, but I suspect that's not their target. Blade Singers coming in. Blade Singers do have magical attacks. They're going to be good against Sirens, but not much else. They're generally not considered a great unit. Looks, Blessing coming again. We get another Dwellers Below, and there's that Invocation immediately this time. That's it. If that's an Overcast, that should be able to finish off Queen Bess, or at least crumble it away. I hope that's going to happen. Yeah. Queen Bess should be in a lot of trouble. Value is pretty even. Both sides have just, handshaked about the side objectives. But it looks like Host has committed a lot to their side objective, and that's a lot of resources that aren't being dedicated to the middle. That said, Dryads are kind of getting crumped by these Depth Guard and the Animate Hulks, but these Glade Guards are just being left to fire for free, and they're doing a ton of work in the back line. Don't really want to be targeting characters, you want to be shooting at the guns, try to get the guns offline first, and then just round them out in melee. The large AP Spears can do really, really well against these Animate Hulks, and do reasonably well in Depth Guard. Sirens coming in, and I expect that's what these Blade Singers want to be looking for. They should be able to clear off these, these are the Blade Singers, not Ward Answers. Oh, Blade Singers. These are the 1200 gold. These guys are just lawnmowers. Well, these gals. They have a ton of Fizz Resist. They have this option to, if they're up against, light armored infantry. And they can tear apart Sirens with their magic attacks and hefty bonus for infantry. They're just an absolute lawnmower. Animate Hulks coming to fight them is a good choice. Animate Hulks are in fact large, not to be suffering bonus for infantry. A lot of times, of course, are punished pretty heavily and forced to withdraw. For the moment at least. Hopefully we can get back there and get a little bit healing up, but Queen Bess is still online. And not even crumbling. The leadership has stabilized. That's 2 Dwellers Below you committed over there, and they're still not doing that well. Dryads are actually, Sirens are an interesting choice, because Dryads do also have magic attacks. So they can be good if they get into the back line, but if they're stuck fighting the front line, they're going to be in a lot of trouble. And value is still very, very neck and neck. That said, the coast healing, they're probably at a bit of an advantage, along with, crumbling, keeping their units fighting a bit longer. Like I said, both sides still just handshaking on the side, just like, nope, you take 1, I'll take 3, we're going to have a good old time in the middle here. Dogs getting caught up in the cavalry, and yeah, the Glade Guards, are getting chunked out pretty heavily by Queen Bess and the summoned guns. Sirens are getting chunked out very, very quickly. What is he doing? Damage? Dryads, yeah. Like I said, Dryads have magical attacks. They will tear through Sirens very, very quickly. Removing that Terror Source is very, very helpful for the Wood Elves. Wood Elves are controlling 2 objectives at the moment, so they are at the advantage in their tickets, and have taken a pretty hefty value lead as well. They're about 700 value all of a sudden. Just killing off that Dryad seems to have just rocketed them into the lead. Queen Bess, however, is hammering into those Glade Guard, and you need those Glade Guard online to be shooting at all of these lightly armored targets. There's just so much here to shoot at, and it's just going to be really, really rough. What else we got? Some gunnery mobs coming in. Like, Lord is just trying to finish off Queen Bess, but now it's going to be surrounded by Scurvy Dogs. Dwellers Below on just Scurvy Dogs feels rough. Like, that just feels like a waste. You probably need to do it. Like, if your Lord gets caught by the dogs there, you could be in a lot of trouble, but it just doesn't feel very good. Glade Guard have spent most of their ammo, so the Wood Elf DPS is going to be just running out of steam here a little bit, but they do have more cav units coming in. Also, I wouldn't mind seeing cav units like come around the side over here and try to get in the back line onto these softer targets, because Glade Rider Spears just aren't that good statted. Like, they just don't have very high stats. They're not going to do a whole lot chunkier the front line. Like, you know, they're fast, and that's really what you pay for, so you'd really rather see them just try and get onto these soft targets back here. And one of them does sneak through the gap, gets on these gunnery mobs, and once they're in melee, this should be a lot harder for the ones behind them to continue shooting them. And the coast front line is crumbling away, both literally and figuratively. They're just taking a lot of damage from these Glade Riders. Just this arc of concave fire has been doing really, really good work, just chunking in arrows, just volleys and volleys of damage output. Checking on the damage of these Glade Guard, like, yeah. 11,000 damage done already, 800 damage value. They've already more than paid for themselves and just done a ton of work here in the center, despite the bombardments of Queen Bess. I can't help but wonder if that triple or quad mortar we talked about would have served Coast better here. Yeah, now the front line is gone. There's just so much space here for cavalry to sneak through the sides. Well, not this side, but like sneak through over here, get on top of these gun mobs, and just prevent them from firing and deny Coast most of their value. And the value lead has only increased for the forces of the Wood Elves. I feel like you've just got so much committed over here. You've got, what, like 1,100 on Depth Guard, 300 on a Gun Mob, and what, like 450 on a Bomber? Whereas your opponent has 850 on a Treekin. Like, you've got almost double over here what your opponent has set to the side objective, so there's up about 800 gold value in the center from the get-go. That said, the Widow frontline does seem crumbling. They're the Firework Elders, which will never die. These guys will be alive at the end of the game, I promise you. These are the tankiest motherfuckers in this entire game. 57 melee defense, 90 armor, ton of HP, fizz resist, missile resist, fire resist, ITP, charge defense, more fire resist aura. Like, these guys aren't going anywhere. So, it'll be very, very hard for Coast to remove them, but if they can just swarm with cheap guns, or cheap infantry, they'll be fine. But yeah, now the front line is entirely faded for Coast, and Wood Elves can just press on these gun mobs. And yeah, now Coast is getting a little desperate and trying to go for a side objective play with the Night Terrors, but Treekin, as I mentioned, are really, really tanky. And the Anti-Infantry and Terror... Well, actually, Terror... Yeah, Terror, they have ITP, so... Anti-Infantry and Terror won't actually be coming into play for these ROR Morngulls, so they'll have a really rough time shooting those Treekin. That said, with the handguns, gunnery mobs coming in, they'll do alright. That's a handgun, isn't it? Why do the basic ones have that much freaking range? I thought they had like 90 range. Anyway, I digress. But with some Raise of the Frozen Heart coming over here, they can just swing up this way and shoot up all the zombies, while the tree can grind the Morgulls. The Morgulls should come out on top of that. Their healing, having passive healing against such a low DPS unit as Treekin, means they should be topped up the entire time, but it'll take a long time for either side to really win out in that fight. Shooting the Lord here feels like a bit of a waste. You aren't going to kill him. You don't need to. Just shoot the infantry. Clear out everything else. Much more of your shots are going to connect. And, like, you're not... Unless you have the finishing power to actually take this guy out afterwards, it doesn't really matter to shoot him. Yeah, Cav are coming up here on these guys. Scurvy Dogs are answering, and they're a really good answer to these, excuse me, to these Glade Riders. They're very high DPS. Dogs, all the models piling in, can actually shoot them apart very, very quickly, so they actually really nice answer light Cav, if they can avoid getting charged, which these ones did. But I think this is looking pretty rough for the forces of Empire Coast, which I'm happy to say, because Coast is very, very frustrating to deal with. Again, I don't like Coast, so I'm happy to see them lose. No, this is being... No, but Sarasa is playing this very, very well. He has been very good about getting his Cav on top of the enemy guns, and yeah, Goolsby realizes he's not going to be retaking those objectives, and he does withdraw. Bit of a couple of misplays from the Wood Elves there, like with the caster on the Queen Bess, as well as just leaving them in front of the handguns, but I think the build was really solid. Like I said, just cheap archers have always been the bane of Coast. They have a very, very hard time dealing with just Glade Guard. Lots and lots of Glade Guard spam. And I can't but wonder, would that, just going with, instead of Queen Bess, just a bunch of mortars. They're harder to kill, because there's more of them. You keep them spread out, and they do a lot of damage against archers. And they're actually a bit more accurate than Queen Bess. Queen Bess is pretty random in its aim. But definitely would have rather seen that, as well as Wind of Death. Wind of Death is also very, very strong. It would help you deal with these Blade Singers, as well as all those Dryads. Well, the Dryads actually didn't do a whole lot. It was a lot of these Glade Guard, I think. As well as the Cav play. There's just seemed to have very, very good Cav control, getting them, just finding the gaps, disrupting the shooting, making sure that his opponent couldn't actually get the value out of their guns. So that'll be the series going to Sarsa. So Sarsa will be advancing to face Czar in the lower bracket finals. So we'll get Czar in here momentarily. Alright, Czar's getting the lobby momentarily. What are you up to, chat? Four mortars, diving to pass, yeah. Bless this ravaged body, indeed. New hour resolution of 1080p? Not on this PC, unfortunately. Actually, wait, you talk about on YouTube? Yeah, you're on YouTube. I don't know how YouTube works, so maybe? It's a solid maybe. I'm guessing no. I think I'm streaming in 720p because my PC is potato. Like I said, I did order a new GPU, so that should hopefully by next week we'll be able to make things look a little nicer. But for the moment, yeah, the platy potato has to stand. We should put a blocker up. We don't want to leak builds. And we should fix name cards. Now we've got Cersa. And we will need Score eventually. And we've got Czar. Yeah, I got the screen blocker eventually. Sorry. What did you get if it's not so good? 2060? My current GPU is a 960, so I am entering the current decade. But you know, it's a step. It's a step. That reminds me, I should check and see if that's shipped yet. Okay, it hasn't shipped yet. I'll probably ship Monday. I'll get it sometime this week. I'll probably stream once I get it and actually do some see how high we can get the quality. Yeah, it's a 10 RTX GeForce RTX 2060. So hopefully we'll be able to get the quality a bit higher. That'll be nice. Anyway, back to what I was doing, namely player scores. Cersa is not in fact up 2-0. You're at 1070, so get it. Yeah. Welcome to the potato PCs. No, I tried to play the Darktide beta. I got in Friday, and I got in the game, and it was like a solid 15 FPS. So I was like, yeah, maybe it's time to enter the modern era a bit. It was worse when like a flamer showed up, because as soon as the fire particles were on my screen, it was like, nope, you're getting maybe 8 FPS. It was pretty painful. Am I Zeech maybe by chance? Nope, not anymore. I was before IE, but ever since IE, they just don't feel very good. They feel so generic. So I've stopped playing Zeech. I have the Iridescent Horror screen blocker because somebody requested it a while ago. Yeah, a lot of like, I think my YouTube and my Twitch banners are both Zeech because I was maining them before IE, but now they don't feel very good to play. They're not as fun. They kind of leaned away from their identity. It's just like, well, you know, we have Skirmish Cav and we have Chaos Warriors and Marauders, just like every other Chaos faction. I'm like, well, I think I've played enough of that. It's not that interesting. It's not that interesting the first time when there's literally 5 factions that do that. It's just so boring. Did I play Vermintide 2? Was it playable? I have played a lot of Vermintide 2, and yeah, it's fine. I mean, I ran on low settings, but it was, yeah, I played a lot of Vermintide 2, and it went just fine. It runs fine. 26 my laptop runs Warhammer 3 very well on top settings. PC version should be a bit better. Hope so. Without using those units. Simple looping horror spam until the cows come out. But it's just not that good anymore. Like, just not that good. With those odd units that I like horrors are the one I like the unique unit on their roster. Like that's their thing, and they're cool, and they used to be really good. But now there's just so many things that fuck them over. He's to say build a 4 skirmish cav and a sorcerer cav through fire. Yep. This thing Zeech is just, yeah, it's not that interesting to me anymore. Like you can't use flamers anymore ever. So, like yeah, it's just all the cool units, things that maybe like Zeech just aren't good anymore. They're outshined by such generic, boring pieces of shit. So I just don't enjoy Zeech anymore, which is a shame. The pink are basically a meme most match. No, pinks are okay. I mean, they're okay sometimes, just not as your entire battle line. Darktide is new, so much more demanding, I guess. Yeah, the environments are a lot more detailed in Darktide, and the particle effects are much more demanding as well. That's a good question. All right, so we are gonna be playing a best of 1 for our semifinals because one of our players is short on time. So our players have agreed to do a best of 1 in a wood elf mirror, which is not actually a matchup I've seen in Domination. Were flamers nerfed? No, there's just so many more things that are good at killing them now. They're really squishy in short range, so if there's any enemy shooting, they're just pretty unusable. It's just a matter of like the things around them got better. It used to be you could use them against like Korn or Nurgle because they didn't have the tools to shut them down, but now they do. even if you are lucky enough to get one of those matchups, but you never see those matchups. So like all the good things in the game have skirmish cav that can kill them, or missiles that can kill them, or cheap cav that can get on top of them. So it's not very good anymore. Curious about this wood elf mirror we've got coming. I'm curious to see the builds. I hope this map is wood elf themed. Making horsemen more expensive help fix. That's one way to do it. I'd rather see horsemen nerfed in the ground because we never see like just not be usable because fuck skirmish cav. Now one thing that really helped is fix the bug of them shooting in melee because that makes them overperform melee. I'd personally like to see them get a lot slower because as they are, they're just so fast that nothing can interact with them unless they choose to. Yeah, that's what I would prefer. Making them more expensive is fine, but like you'll still see a ton of them unless the price increase is like egregiously much. You'll still see a ton of them. He's just much less accurate while moving, like in Shogun 2. I didn't know they were less accurate in Shogun 2. Never played Shogun 2, but that would definitely work. Wasn't pay attention because I'm a noob with the shooting while firing bug. Was that always like that, or did it happen in recent patches? It happened when Immortal Empires went live. So as soon as it wasn't a thing in Warhammer 2. As soon as Horsemen were added, Marauder Horsemen were added to Game 3, they were doing that. So it started in like August, mid-August. Nice. What's the map? Am I the map? Oh, why am I the host all of a sudden? Oh, like this will be a best of one, so we don't need these scores anymore. Now it means everything's off center. Now I need to fix everything again. Because it has to be perfect. Everything has to be completely perfect. Chaos Skirmish Chefs just be more expensive and stop them shooting melee. Yeah, like I said, that's definitely one way to do it. There's a lot of ways you could nerf it. I'm not sure what would be the best personally. It's tough to change stats on units because it affects across game modes. I think bug fix on melee plus 50% price or 50 gold price increase. Yeah, words are hard. More expensive plus fix the fire melee. That would help. I think they'd still be good then. They just wouldn't be as oppressive. But I don't like skirmish cav fundamentally. They're just not uninteractive, and that's why they're good. Is because you can guarantee value, and your opponent can't do anything about it unless you fuck up. Which at the highest level of plays, they're not gonna fuck up. This isn't quite touching the bottom of the screen, and it bothers me. Term capture never outtrade standard range TBH. I mean, they don't really at the moment, unless it's like ganging up. The thing is, if you have an archer line and you have 4 skirmish cav, if the 4 skirmish cav just walk up and start trading like 1-to-1, they're gonna lose, unless they juke really hard. But that's unreliable and requires a lot of micro. What usually happens is, they say, okay, you have an archer line. I'm gonna go far right and just fight the rightmost one, because they have the mobility to pick engagements like that. The problem is, and I talked about this in my skirmish cav video a couple of days, like a week ago. Like, the problem with skirmish cav is that because they can pick engagements, they have speed to pick their engagements, and they're ranged so they don't take damage for those engagements. It means there's no real way to counter them actively. Pretty sure how skirmish cav worked in reality. I wouldn't know. I have never participated in skirmish cavalry activities IRL. Be as annoying and fast as possible. Yeah, I just think that makes for a very uninteractive gameplay cycle. Like, that's just not a very fun gameplay pattern. Like, for me, even when I'm using skirmish cav, even when I am the one who has it, it's not fun. Like, they don't feel very impactful. It's just constant micro. And for your opponent, it's just like, well, it's just a fly buzzing in your ear the entire time. So I really dislike skirmish cav. That's why I've used the fuck out of missile chariots, because they counter skirmish cav. They're the one things that do. I haven't been near a horse in ages. Me neither. I fell off a horse when I was a child and haven't ridden a horse since. Fell off and I was using a stump to get on, because obviously I was a tiny child, and then I fell and my back scraped against the stump. And just scratched up all up and down my back, and I haven't been on a horse since. Oh, I'm being DM'd. Oh, they're probably ready and not waiting for me. That's my bad. Sorry, I was ranting. This is why I don't like hosting lobbies, because I have to actually pay attention to what's happening instead of just keep talking. Alright, so I always find builds. Oh, am I lagging? Can you hear me? I'm gonna check one of these days. Was I in skirmish mode? No, I wasn't. So I always find builds really interesting in mirrors, because they actually dictate quite a bit. Because obviously, if you, when you have the same tools, it's curious what players bring. So, for the forces of Cersa, or Nersa, whatever the hell their name is announced, is Eternal Guards, Silver Shields, really good against Archer Fire, really durable against missiles. Leo Starfire Shaft. Starfire Shafts are a bit interesting. They're AP. The Fire Dance will do well in Strides, but the AP is kind of wasted against what else? They don't have much armor. Hawkeyes of Drakira. They're really nice for the Discourage effect to actually route things off. Spellslinger of Life with Dwellers of Balance and Awakening of the Wood, and a Deepwood Scout, and Sister of Twilight. I really like the Eternal Guard because they have silver shields, and obviously missiles are probably what's going to be dictating this matchup more than melee. And for the other side, for the forces of Tsar, we have Eternal Guard, silver shields, backed up by Dryads, backed up by Glade Guard, and just lots of infantry. And we have an Ancient Treeman. What does he have? He has also Dwellers of Balance and Earthblood. I worry that he's just going to be a victim for the Sisters of Twilight, but it'll take them quite a long time to kill them. They don't do fire damage, do they? I don't think they do. No, they just have poison. Wait, they have anti-infantry on their missile attack? I never knew that. Is that only on one of these? I assume it's only on this one, right? Yeah. And this one's both versus large. Okay. Like horses, not brave to shoot a gun in the back one. Yeah, that seems like a bad idea, unless you know exactly what you're doing. Okay, so we got a bit of a wider build for Zar here, which I kind of like, but he's got a lot more melee focus. So if his opponent, if Sarasa can keep him at arm's reach and just abuse the fact that they have more and stronger missiles, it could be a pretty good spot. What kind of are these basic ones? Starfire, basic, basic. So 1 Starfire, 3 basic. So yeah, if our blue Wood Elf player can keep his opponent at arm's length and actually abuse their missile superiority, they could be a pretty good spot, but that could be kind of difficult to do when there's all these Dryads running at you. Because Dryads, though they are not shielded and are weak to fire, they are still probably the most efficient infantry that Wood Elves have. They're very, very killy in melee, especially against low armor. Excellent weapon strength, so they can do a lot of work in melee. Sister of Twilight firing in. Shooting the Sister of Twilight is a waste. They have this ability, which I believe is guaranteed to proc because of, again, bugs. And they got... Is that a heal coming down? What ability did I just see? Vanilla's Vantage. I have never seen that ability. Not much of a Wood Elf player, but, you know. So I'd kind of like to see... the treeman's just hiding in the trees, which is probably for the best. Yeah, now this is what we see. Because the blue side has missile superiority, red is forced to advance, which means they're taking the fight here, right next to blue spawn, which is generally seen as a bad thing for red. Because obviously, you know, reinforcement advantage. Blue has to come this far to get reinforce the fight, red has to come this far. It's not exactly that complex. But because, you know, you have inferior missiles, you're going to lose out trading at range, you have to engage in melee, which forces you to rush the opponent's missile line, which can go, you know, well or poorly. And I like this, you know, the long and thin formations just sneak through the cracks. Now these Wood Elves have to kite or sacrifice an archer to the Dryads. Very smart play from the forces of Zar. That said, his archers are getting absolutely hammered, though honestly I think he should, well, I don't know. Shooting the Dryads definitely alleviates a threat, but the archers are also a threat, so it's kind of like, well, which one do you focus on? Dryads coming to seal up the holes in the lines. Wouldn't mind seeing a Dwellers come down, like, in this sort of an area to try and punish all this blobbing. The Dryads are getting crossfired pretty effectively and chunked out. Sister of Twilight just flying around doing a lot of damage. I wonder, I'm curious if it's worth it to sit the Sisters of Twilight just shooting at the excuse me, the tree man the entire game, or if they're more useful shooting the infantry. I don't actually know. I'm not a huge Wood Elf player. So the Dryads in the backline have been shut down. The backline compromising. Oh, that's a nasty Dwellers. That hits 4 units. That's a ton of damage to the tree man. He just waddled out of the trees and said, fuck your entire backline. That's just skyrocketing the value lead in favor of Zar. That hurts so much. It one-shot 2 units and routed off 2 more. That is brutal, including damage to the Hawkeyes of Drakira. That's a ton of damage for the tree man. He got 700 value off of that one spell, I think. That's brutal. That might have just broken up in the whole game. That just broke open Nurse's whole entire backline. That's really rough. The Glade Riders do rally a little bit, but now that your missile line is just compromised and broken, and that just hurts so much. Sister of Twilight will keep flying around and just chunking out, but your melee lines should crumble. Like you just have less, so you should lose. That's, you know, nothing complex there. It's just math. And now without your missiles to actually support you, that's your win condition is gone as the blue side. That's really rough. You really gotta be careful about that sort of thing. Who is DMing me and do I care? No, I don't right now. Cool. So we do still have a couple of Glade Guard online. And the value differential has stabilized for the moment. If the blue side can stabilize their backline, clean up some of these red units, just get some Cav in here, some Dryads maybe, some on top of these. You can get some good engagement because they are fighting between your spawn zones, so obviously you can summon on every side of them. And so you good engagements. Brothers coming in does nuke out a couple of Eternal Guard and Dryads. Pretty good value there, but yeah. This is looking pretty rough. Wild Riders coming in, they should just dominate these Glade Riders. Yeah, they're, oh my goodness, they're barely taking damage. Yeah, absolutely dominating the Glade Riders. These are probably coming in, trying to help lend their aid whatever they can, but just a little too late. And Red has captured 2 objectives. Nobody's captured objective 3 yet for the moment, which is a bit of a mistake, a bit of a little misplay. When you're taking a fight this far forward in your opponent's backfield, you really want to cap all 3 points. That way you're being rewarded for taking a fight that is typically disadvantaged, although Zar is up a ton of value, so that might actually, he might be able to get away with it. Wild Riders screaming in the backline, cleaning up whatever tattered remains of, you know, Ceres' backline there are. And yeah, that's just, like I said, Blue's win condition was all those archers, and they just got nuked by that one spell. Felt so bad. Just so bad, dude. Like I said, Scissors Pilot should be able to fly over and just finish off all of these archers, whatever little bits remain. And the front line has actually worn out for the red side here. A lot of forces are dedicated to the backfield and not actually contested objectives, so the blue side may be able to sneak these objectives pretty quickly. There's nothing up here to stop them. They could definitely take these objectives back reasonably well, but they just still have such a value deficit. They actually end up killing these units. They can sneak these objectives all they want. It's not going to be enough if they can't kill off the units they're coming back to retake. But it does force them out of your backfield and allow you to actually really restabilize and try to get something back here to actually put together a concentrated push. And looks like capture point 3 will be captured, possibly by accident, by some cav that rallied on there. But capture point 2 goes in the favor of the blue wood elves. Firebrick elders will be just a really tanky and hard to remove presence, but with Eternal Guard spears, they should trade up them pretty well. They are AP, and they are anti-large. They'll do reasonably well. This is why they're just chunking away, but they're just not actually doing a whole lot very quickly. They don't have that high impact value that the Ancient Treeman did with his Terror Routes and his spellcasting. He's already accrued. Well, he's still at 700 value. He's already accrued more than the sisters have just off that one spell, I think. But yeah, the Firebrick elders are really hard to remove, and ooh, Dwellers coming in. Who is that for? Whose Dwellers is it? I assume it's Reds? Yeah. The Wild Hunters current. Oh, losing a 1500 gold cav unit to the Dwellers like that feels so bad, man. Dwellers of Balance. That's a 1500 gold cav unit that lost engagement to a 500 gold cav unit just because of one spell. That feels really rough, and that value lead is just getting even larger and larger in the favor of Tsar. Archers do come back online in the backfield, but this is looking very, very rough. Okay, now their own Dwellers is coming in. Should nuke those Eternal Guard. Did they get the Glade Riders as well? They do. Should knock off those 2 units, but I don't know. Treeman and the Sisters are engaged in melee. Sisters are not known for their melee prowess. They're quite a terrifying unit, but not for their melee combat. They're not terrible, but they shouldn't be able to stand up to an Ancient Treeman, I suspect. And so a lot of the red cav is in tatters. They have a ton of units on the field, but most of it is routing off. If blue can just get a couple of like maybe healthy infantry units out here, some dryads maybe some Eternal Guard down here, like one of these sides. Yeah, there we go. There's some healthy dryads. Nothing to really remove them. That said, there's some War Dance coming in, but War Dance are just such a garbage unit. War Dance are so bad. They're just so incredibly squishy that even if they're in good engagements, they tend to trade fairly poorly just because they take damage so quickly. The melee defense stat is really all they have. They have some Fizz resist. Like melee defense is all they really have going for them to keep them alive. Their HP pool is just so small. It's very, very rough. We get some Wild Riders caught here in the backfield. Excellent summonings. You summon one on the Vanguard point, one on the regular spawn point just to pincer that cav unit and get a good engagement. Very, very well played. That said, now the infantry resurgence for the red side does come in, and they'll be resurging onto the center objective. Honestly, I think you ignore the Ancient Tree Man. He's like the only thing that can kill the Firebrick Elders to fight the infantry. Blue does manage to take back objective number 3, which is good. It buys them more time to try and pull something out. But honestly, sisters are out of ammo. Do they even cause terror? No, they only cause fear. I feel like you just desummon them at this point. They're not that good in melee. Just desummon them, get a refund. You get a lot of money back. Turn that into infantry. Turn that into dryads or Eternal Guard or something. You need more presence on the field right now, because right now you're just getting overrun by the fact that your opponent has more units than you, and a lot of your money is tied up in the Sisters of Twilight. They're not going to do a whole lot for you once they're out of ammo. Like just desummon them. Whereas the Treeman, on the other hand, like even if he is out of WOM, he still causes terror and has better melee stats. Like he's just going to be doing well, maybe not. But the Eagles just don't have good animations. They just don't have very well. Oh, that's a nasty Dwellers. Whose is it? It's the red one. Yeah, gets the Dryads, gets the Glade Riders, and now red is just free to waltz right onto that point. These Dwellers have been nasty back and forth. This Treeman's got to have a ton of value. Yeah, he's got 3,600 value, 3,700 value, and he's still going strong. He's still got probably another Dwellers or 2 in his back pocket. And this is looking very good for the forces of Tsar and his Redwood Elves. Got so many more units on the field. Like, it says Cersa has 10, but I feel like it's just a lot of tattered things. I mean, they have both a lot of tattered things, but like, it's Treekin that can't really kill infantry. They don't really kill much of anything very quickly. They'll clean off what remains of those spears. And they might take that objective, again, temporarily, but they just don't have to capture the damage output to hold it on to it long term. That said, they're doing quite a number against the Ancient Treeman. If you had decided to dedicate the Sisters of Twilight to their anti-large projectile to shoot the Ancient Treeman from the beginning, I'd like this play. Oh, and Sisters of Twilight actually die off the Wild Riders. Jeez, yeah. I feel like you should just desummon them as soon as they use their ammo. They didn't accomplish anything in melee. And actually with that, I don't think there's much of a way for Saracet to come back into this. Which feels rough, man.
One of your units has been destroyed.
That said, they do manage to take back objective number 1. They're trying to scrap for objective number 2, and they're holding on to it for the moment, but... Actually, no, Red does have that. But with just this tide of tattered infantry that's coming in, Blade Rider Spears aren't really going to be enough to actually stop them, especially against Wild Riders of their own with Earthblood on them. Viper Calders finally rout. And the thing is, yeah, Red doesn't need to take this objective. They don't have to 3-cap. They're ahead of tickets. They can just leave it, just, summon some more spears, park them on these objectives. Just chill here with a line of spears, and, like, how does your opponent deal with that? How do they deal with spears when you're at a disadvantage in numbers? Like, if you bring out infantry, it's going to come over my cav. You bring out cav, what do they do about spears? Saruman's worst nightmare right there. Enjoy Destiny, but they can be broken and run off. Yeah. Wood Elfmere. Yeah. And yeah. There's his forces are in tatters. I don't see any way for him back into this. He just doesn't have the troops on the field anymore. And he realizes that and withdraws, and that will be our lower bracket finals going to Tsar. Let's check this Chad Treeman. 3,800 value compared to the opponent's caster of 23. Yeah. This is probably, like I said, you could have, if you desummon them and get most of their value back, like you pay for themselves there, and then you can just turn that into infantry, and maybe you have a shot back on the map. But like as it was, like they're just not useful in melee, especially on the Hawk. If they're on the Dragon, maybe, but like on their Hawk, there's just not much use for them in melee. Just desummon them, get something more useful. Shriekin were an interesting touch. They did pretty well. They held. They were the only reason you really had any foothold on the objective at all. But Tsar's rush just seemed like a lot to deal with. He was very, very good about getting his cav and his drides through the weak spots. The narrow formations just walk through the gaps was very, very clever. And he just disrupted all the shooting very easily. Jeez. So enough, take a look at our bracket real quick. That will be, oh, yep, down here. Saracen beat Samurai Style, Ghoul Baby, and then played against Tsar, and we just saw Saracen lost to Tsar. So Tsar will be advancing to have the rematch against Gianni. See if he's learned from his previous defeat and squeak out a win. Get a blocker up, and let's get Gianni in here. Alright, so it's time for the rematch. We have... Again, I think that's how it's pronounced. I hope it is. I'd feel bad if I mispronounced their name the entire time, but can't do a whole lot about that. But if the ogres again, it's just ridiculous. What do they do to them? Yeah, ogres are not in a good spot. Especially when so many of the old factions can just... Nope, that's the wrong button. Can just spam out cheap spears. It's like, well, what do you do against 15 300 gold spears? Alright, while our players get in the lobby and do their picks, I am going to take a moment to do a restroom break. I'll be right back in a few minutes. Alright, I am back. I doubt they're playing Return of Beast since they're probably doing picks. What do you guys talk about in chat? Is the dragon could maybe breath attack the treeman? Breath attacks are usually better against infantry. I don't know about that one specifically. There are a couple that are against infantry. Actually, why don't I just check? I have that power. What are forest dragon breath attacks supposedly good against? Large combat. Okay, maybe. Didn't know that. Today I learned. I'll actually lose some in Lyra trying out Orion Rushes, having seen this. TBH Orion shouldn't even be that bad. No, he's not that bad. Thing is, you have a couple of characters just do a lot for cheaper. Like Orion's fine, but like a Glady with Praven Authorima is still really good, or just a cheap caster is really good. Or Drycha. Drycha's also really, really good. His Pit of Balance is still, well, it got nerfed, so it's not that bad, but it's still pretty damn good. Hope Ogres a bear weight capture weight patch. Yeah. I think Ogres need to have an exception in their capture weight. Like, add it to their, like they have a couple of unique Ogre abilities. Make one that they capture as fast as regular infantry in it. It looks like Zara's on Dark Elves. My boy. I am automatically rooting for you because I like Dark Elves. I am in my heart an edgelord. And Skaven. Ooh. Skaven artifacts, I think, are actually a lot stronger than a lot of people have really given them credit for. They take a little bit of finesse to play, obviously, because they just have such low leadership and are always routing. But their weapon teams are incredibly powerful, as well as things like Ratters and Wolf Rats. They have strong casters, strong characters. They can be a real menace in the right hands, so happy to see them here today. And things like Globadiers and Mortars are just so efficient at clearing out infantry, even armored infantry, like in this case Corsairs, or things like Chaos Warriors. They're just so good at killing it off. Like, it's to the point where you can't really bring elite infantry, or even like mid-tier infantry in Skaven, because it's gonna die. You just gotta bring chaff. Because, I mean, usually most chaff will beat Clan Rats or Skaven Slaves, because they're garbage, but I mean, that's kind of their job. And then they hold you in place just long enough for a globe volley. And then both at front lines die, and well, Skaven backlines are usually a lot stronger. That said, Dark Elves do have some nice swarming tools. Chariots, Light Cav, Dragons, Manticores, although Howling Warpgale is a menace. Just a flying net, especially combined with Jezzails or Rattling Gunners, can really, really punish any flying characters. Things like Malekith, Marathi, basic Manticores, any of those things that Skaven usually have a lot of trouble with. And the thing with Howling Warpgale that I think this is new to Warhammer 3, I don't think it used to do this, is that a flying character that has landed is still an eligible target for Howling Warpgale. So even if Malekith, or Marathi, or a Manticore, or even the Crows of Gain, or a Heartbeat lands, they're still eligible to be netted. And if there's a Rattling Gun or a Jezzail nearby, they will not be long for this world. Skaven can't go for the gun defends gun doctrine. I'm scared by Esh and stuff, though. I think they definitely can. I mean, they have to have some kind of chaff, too, but, like, they're, Rattling Guns are really good at punishing any flying unit that tries to dive their back line. So if you have 2 Rattling Guns, it's very hard to shut them down. Ashen stuff is actually really good, though. Gutter Runners, I found a lot of success with lately, specifically not the Slingers, the basic ones. They do a ton of damage. You can really poke out, elite targets. I mean, they do fine against chaff, but they don't have enough ammo to really focus chaff. You want to have them shooting things like Malekith or Manticores, or maybe Scourge Runners are armored. But like well, I guess Malekith is armored on a dragon too, isn't he? But like, any of those big targets that they don't miss a lot against, they actually hit incredibly hard. They have 120 models that do 20 weapons. They have 20 missile strength, so like they hit real hard. Like I saw in the last tournament I casted. I can't remember which one. I had my sweaty tournament the other day. We saw Skaven versus Cathay, and a gutter runner just sat underneath a sky junk, used all of its ammo, and almost single-handedly killed a sky junk. I'd bring Malice to avoid Howling Warp Gale? Yeah, quite possibly. Deathmaster can 1v1 basically anything though. Not really. Deathmaster is really, really good at punching down, but his stats aren't that exceptional. Like, he's just very squishy. So his damage output is really high, but he really can't take it as well as he dishes it out. So he really likes to just pick on something that's already been pinned down by rat ogres or wolf rats. But he's not a great 1v1er. He's really just the follow through to the setup of pinning something in place. Malice is definitely a strong choice. I've used him a couple of times. I'm not sold on how to play this matchup from the Dark Elf perspective. Neither side really. That's I haven't been playing a ton of Skaven, but I play a lot of Dark Elves, and I'm not really sold on how you do this matchup as Dark Elves. Their players ready. I need to ready up to actually start the game. They're also surprisingly tanky with their Fizz Resist. The Barracks combat sets and clan arts. Yeah, like they're really good. Really good. Deathmaster really struggles with Dark Elf Legendary Lords. Yeah. He does alright. He's like I said, he doesn't want to 1v1. He wants to gang up on something and just shank it in the back. Just person shank it over and over. Calling it getting it sniped, calling it now. Yeah, Skrulk is an interesting choice. But anyway, so yeah. Gianni Skaven, led by Lord Skrulk. And he does have Vermintide, Pestilent Breath, Lieber One Shoticus, and Rod of Corruption as well. Stand your ground. Interesting. And Aura of Pestilence. Okay. Got a line of globes. Shocker. Skaven always bring like at least 4 globes. They are just the best unit on your roster. They are 550 and they counter infantry. They just hard counter infantry. So then we got Ikit Zap Zap. Good for pressuring things like Malekith or Scourge Runners. They're really good against large targets as well as causing increased cooldowns. So against something like Malekith, you can stop them from casting Soul Stealer and Bellies without. Nandubos, again, really good against the same targets, killing large things. Skaven Slaves, Clan Rats. Nandubos are actually interesting because they have Stalk and Snipe, so they're invisible to your opponent, even while shooting. And if you zoom out too much with the debug camera, their projectile trails don't show up, so they can be literally invisible, which is a real pain. Dark Elves have Malekith, and notably there's no Howling Warpgale on the side of the Skaven, so he could be a real terror. 2 Scourge Runners, Bleak Swords, Black Corsairs, and Dreadspear. So full melee except for a couple of Scourge Runners. Really looking to get in there and try to disrupt the Skaven. Scourge Runners can be really good for just plowing through the front line and getting right on top of those globes and make sure they can't fire. And there are the Gutter Runners we wanted to see. But they'll do a really good job pressuring Malekith, but they are also very vulnerable to those chariots. And they do have... Oh wait, did they fix the bug? Oh no. You may be about to witness my least favorite bug in the... Like the most irritating bug in the game. I'll point it out if it happens. Nandubos are given a lock-on order onto Malekith. Like I said, they cannot actually be seen. So they're likely getting pretty good damage. Warplaning cans are not very effective against infantry, as you can see here. To use, you want to reserve them for larger targets. Scourge Runners are just running at the Gutter Runners. Like I said, they're not very good at killing the Scourge Runners. So, Wolf Rats. Poison isn't the best against Scourge Runners. They are armored. I prefer the regular one, but they'll still do really, really well at just chewing on these Scourge Runners. They're actually taking a ton of damage. Jeez. Gutter Runners, like I said, they hit really hard. This is an armored chariot. They hit really hard. As I said, there are some Dark Riders in the trees, which is cheeky. Get them down here and just punish those Wolf Rats. They can't see them unless their opponent... Unless, you know, Gianni reacts really quickly, which they do. They do get the counter charge, but still, Wolf Rats really hate being charged by anything. Dog units are very bad when they get charged. Nandubos are tearing apart these Bleak Swords. And this unsupported Scourge Runner might do a bit of damage, but I feel like you could get much more use out of it getting it down here and actually protecting your infantry. Because right now, what's going to happen, these globes are going to get in range, and these swords are not going to last very long. That Poison Wind effect does a ton of damage. Did he ride off these wolf rats? Oh, the bug didn't happen. Yay. So there was a bug where anytime somebody came in range of this ability? No. Oh, no, there it is. Yep, that's the bug. This ability causes the net of ammo talk sound whenever something comes in range of it, and it's the most irritating and distracting thing in the game. But anyway, globes are doing what globes do. You really don't want to stack your Skaven infantry like this, because chaff efficiency doesn't matter here. Everything dies to globes, friend and foe alike. Which is one of my favorite things about this game, honestly. It's just everything dies. But yeah, globes are just tearing apart the swords in the mid-ground. That said, Dark Elves have taken the left side, just brought up their bunch of infantry to reinforce the Scourge Riders. Like I said, I don't like unsupported Scourge Riders here, but with the infantry to support them, absolutely fine. Malekith is doing not a whole lot at the moment. He's getting zapped by zap, and being shot by one-shot, I guess, and Natty Boobos. But the juking is good. Landing is good. It gets a much flatter angle, so those weapon teams might lose line of sight pretty easily. Terror routes off the wolf rats. And that means that Dark Elves do have a pretty solid control over 2 objectives, but nothing really in the pit. And with the globes pushing up these ramps and just nuking out that Dark Elf infantry, this could go south for the Dark Elves really quickly. Skaven could just push up this ramp and take this objective pretty easily with just their mass amounts of infantry and the globes. What I don't want to see them do is split up. Take 3 or take 1. Please don't do both. Please don't do both. You don't need to. Taking 1 requires a lot of resource dedication because obviously close reinforcements. Malekith's also taking a hammering. Jeez. It's much easier to retake 3 because you have the reinforcement advantage, whereas your opponent has to come from far away. If you're going for 1, you need to dedicate all your reinforcements, whereas if you're trying to take 3, it doesn't take as much reinforcements, so you want much resources, you probably want to go for it. Malekith needs to be juking these shots, dude. He's just getting hammered. He comes straight down the Warp Lightning can, but if a Wolf Rat or a Rat Ogre gets summoned here, it could be the end for Malekith really, really quickly. Especially if it's the Arwar. That said, yep, there they are. There's the Rat Ogres. Perfect, like textbook play from Johnny. Like, there's a big monster coming in your backline. Punch the shit out of it with Rat Ogres. Soulsteer coming down. Hopefully gets the Rat Ogres. Heals at Malekith a little bit. Malekith needs to get the heck out of dodge. And in this map, these canyon walls can make it really hard to contest these missile pieces here in the middle, especially when you have control of the center. Because otherwise your opponent has to come either overhead with flyers or around the sides with their mobility, which is actually freed up because Dark Elves do control the sides. That will be happening shortly, but at this point the damage is done. Malekith has taken most of his HP. He has heal cap as far away, and he does have Soul Steal, so he'll heal up over time, but he's in danger as is. Rat Ogres do peel off the cav, so this Skaven weapon teams are still pretty safe for the time being, and they are starting to retake objective number 3. And yeah, Natty Boo was just pounding in. There's a chance he doesn't even know Natty Boobos are here. Like, there's a chance that Czar just doesn't even know that they're on the field, which feels bad. Like, that bug is so obnoxious. I don't actually think it's a bug. I think it's a graphics thing, where, like, it's just not a high priority for them to load in. Yeah, like, can we actually get it to happen if we zoom out too far with the debug cam? But, I don't know. Like I said, there's a chance that Czar just cannot see these guys at all at any point in this game. Which, again, feels really shitty. Gutter Riders are just chunking away these Dark Riders. Wolf Rats should chew them apart pretty well, and these Wolf Rats will do really well into Spears. Well, they'll do better in the Spears than Cav because they are small, but they should still lose just because Spears have better stats than they do, despite their very, very high damage output. Malekith's just getting hammered, dude. Scroll Kid's getting surrounded by some Cold One Knights, but Scroll Kid is small, so they don't get anti-large bonus, and without anti-large, their melee stats are kind of trash. Actually, whoa, they're up at... Murderous Prowess. Oh yeah, so something I didn't know about Dark Elves until very recently is that once Murderous Prowess pops, which I suppose it has by this point, like everything's been dying, so Murderous Prowess... Wait, Malekith doesn't have Murderous Prowess? Why the hell does the Lord not get Murderous Prowess? Once it pops, anytime something is summoned in, so these guys just got summoned in, it is currently active on them. It starts as soon as something spawns in. So it doesn't just affect things that are on the field when it pops. Anything that gets summoned after that, it'll have it active for, what is it, 90 seconds is the duration? Yeah. First 90 seconds you summon anything in, their stats will be a lot better. And Malekith does route off. And that feels really, really bad for the Force of the Dark Elves. Skaven are up about 1400 damage value, but they are ever so slight behind in tickets. I feel like these games are so long, dude. Like, it feels like Skaven have just done quite a number on Dark Elves. But Dark Elves really haven't had anything to pay for it. Like, they've taken positioning aggressively, and then lost out eventually, over the force of reinforcements, although they have also had the issue of getting shot by those Nabubos, which are gone. I assume they got desummoned as soon as they killed Malekith, because like that was their job, and they were getting compromised anyway, so. Without Malekith, Skrulk can go nuts in the middle. He's a strong melee combatant. He's really good against chaff because of this contaminated effect, which lowers leadership, as well as having Rod of Corruption to just have a pseudo Mortis engine to actually chew through all the infantry and the high model counts. That said, Skaven do need to take an objective back reasonably soon, but they are. There's no Dark Elf infantry left up here. There's just a couple of tattered clan rats, which, a couple of tattered red spears, which should be dealt with just fine by the Rat Ogres, the Night Runners, and the clan rats. What's up over here? Harpies. Really not a fan of basic Harpies. I feel like their leadership is just so trash. Like, maybe I've just been spoiled by Furies, but they're just... I don't feel like they're that good. The Crows of Cain, like I said, the Crows of Cain are amazing, and I'm kind of disappointed nobody's used them at all today. They're like the best unit on the roster. But the basic Harpies are just not that good. That said, Skaven don't have a whole lot left on the battlefield. Against low leadership factions like Skaven, like I was saying earlier with Greenskins, your damage values can be deflated because they just route off so quickly, and you don't actually get to kill them off. So this game could be quite a bit closer than the value would actually imply. It actually looks that way. Like, there's not a whole lot left on the field, honestly, for either player. If the armies have thinned out a ton, but all these Rat Ogres coming in the late game will be quite a problem for Dark Elves to deal with. That said, Scourge Rise are a pretty good answer to the Rat Ogres. Their shooting is just very, very well against the Rat Ogres, and their chariots that can just run over the infantry very effectively. So if you can get that shooting in the right place, you can do quite a bit of work. Furies come in. I don't like the Harpies here. Well, I don't like any flying unit. Like in this situation, like it's not going to kill much because there's Wolf Rats right there. Wolf Rats will chew them apart very, very quickly, especially the Gutter Runner support. And you don't even have any ground troops that you're supporting. I'd rather see you divert the forces into the middle. Like I've said before, and I'll say it again. Don't try to contest all 3 objectives if you don't have to, especially... Well, you're not at a mobility disadvantage as Dark Elves inherently. You're just at a resource disadvantage, so you really don't want to spread yourself thin. You want to be in 2 objectives where you can support your forces can support each other. When you're taking this one and this one, those forces cannot interact because your opponent controls the middle, and you can't cross this line without having to fight an enemy or coming all the way back through your spawn, which takes much longer. So, yeah. Moral of the story is take 2 adjacent objectives, unless you have mobility dominance, which, again, on paper Dark Elves do, but in this situation, you're just in tatters, so you don't. I think the value is evening out a little bit. Tsar is catching up, and again, deflation. But Skaven are getting routed off over here on the right side, but honestly, yeah, exactly this. Skrulk can just march up here and take objective 1 because there's nothing defending it. Cav will do a good job running over Gutter Runners, but the Rat Ogres are a problem. The Scourge Rise will kill them eventually, but not very quickly. And also, if these Rat Ogres come in the back of these Cav, they're going to be goners. Not even these Rat Ogres, and there's too much here for one Dark Rider to take out on their own. And more Scourge Runners, I don't think are the answer. I think you need some Dread Spears or something to come up here, and that's the problem. You just don't have... Dark Elves can't really kill monster infantry that effectively, outside of poking them down over time with Scourge Runners. And they do reasonably well with, some other shooting, but generally it's going to be Scourge Runners, and it just takes them a long time to do it. So Rat Ogres, or their equivalent in any other roster, Chaos Spawn, Crypt Horrors, can be really problematic for Dark Elves. And so we can't bring that many. And they are low leadership. They're actually routing off, and actually, yeah, that's doing a ton of work. But now, okay, Scourge Runners, I like this. Downhill charge and the Wolf Rats. Wolf Rats are infantry sides. The Chariots get their anti-infantry and do a ton of damage to them. They do quite a bit of damage. Downhill charge and are routing them off pretty effectively. We got some Cold One Knights come over here. They can kill those Clan Rats. Like I said, their minutes that suck, but those are Clan Rats. They'll deal with. They'll kill them just fine. And I'd love to see these Scourge Runners come over here and just run over these Gutter Runners. They have a lot of capture weights. They manage to be able to capture this objective before killing off their opponents. I don't know. I feel like if Dark Elves still had Malekith on the Dragon, still had that terror source in the late game, they'd be in a much better spot. But as is, this feels really rough. Skaven are just able to pump out reinforcements way faster than you because their shit's cheap and can just control space much better. And you just have to chew through so much chaff that you need, like Corsairs. There's so many things in the field that punish Corsairs. There's Globes, there's Rat Ogres, there's Skrulk. You can't actually get away with having Corsairs in the field at the moment. So this is looking pretty much a done deal for in the favor of the Skaven. That said, the value lead is closing, but I feel like Dark Elves are just... They're getting a value lead. They're equalizing value at the cost of map control. So now if we look at it, this is controlled by Skaven. Like, everything here is controlled by Skaven. Dark Elves have this and this. So it's like, yeah, they're catching up in value lead, but they're just sacrificing all presence on what matters, which is like this portion of the map. They don't control the ramps, which are the power points of this map. They don't control the objectives. So like it's just really, really rough. And with so much Skaven chaff, Skavens are good at controlling the map because they can spam out so much cheap stuff. They don't have the strongest control, but they can control a lot of space because they have cheap, high model count infantry. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. And yeah, I don't foresee Dark Elves actually being able to come back from this situation. With the globes being resummoned, any infantry that's actually brought to clear all this chaff will be punished very, very quickly. Scourge Riders getting caught up in Rat Ogres. What few Rat... I admit there's not a ton of Rat Ogres left, so if you can avoid the Rat Ogres, the Scourge Riders can actually run over. Excuse me. A lot of the Skaven infantry, but there's just so much Skaven infantry. Deathmaster plus Assassin beats all the same thing in the game, though, and costs like 1,700. Situationally. Like I said, they're still very, very squishy. They do quite well because of their debuffs, though. The thing is, the reason I didn't consider Deathmaster plus Assassins is usually... Gianni didn't actually do it here, but usually want a Chieftain as Skaven for the leadership buff across your entire army, which is very, very strong. And then if you bring Deathmaster, then you also have to bring a Caster. So you almost always want a Chieftain as Skaven these days. Because of the power grab ability giving leadership to your entire army, it's very, very strong. And then if you bring Deathmaster as your Lord, then you need a Caster, and that's all 3 hero slots. So if you bring Skrulk and an Assassin, you don't have that Chieftain, and that Chieftain buff is very, very strong. Arguably more important than killing an enemy Lord. That way. And the thing is, you have other ways to kill the enemy Lord as well. Like you have, like you saw Natty Boobos, you have Ikit Zap Zap, and the mosh pit begins. I can't wait to see one globe fire and just light up all of this Skaven infantry. Come on, throw one globe for me. Now there's chariots on top of them there, can be firing. There's another globe around here somewhere. Nope, it's almost routed. It's almost dead. Troll can come down maybe, but it's just so much Skaven bodies. Bleed Swords are really, really cost-effective infantry in it. They have really nice melee stats, 36, 32, 35 for 450. But there's just too many rat bodies. And these globes are 3. The Scourge Runners have shattered. So. I don't know if you micro behind stuff. I've seen it more or less solo Tyrion and Imric. It what? Hello, 720p, the highest it can go. It is for now. I'm getting a new GPU this week. I'll have better quality in the future. I promise. Probably, assuming that's how that works. But yes, at the moment I'm running on a 960, a GTX 960 graphics card, which is, you know, top of the line in 2014. So we're a bit dated. Fixing it though. We're getting there. Yeah, Skaven have overtaken the Dark Elves in points, so the Dark Elves will have to retake one of these objectives. As I said, they are breaking through a little bit on the high ground, but the globes should rout them off. Poison Wind effect is applied to both of them, so they should be dying after that alone. And they are not going to be long for this world. And then again, Skaven can just shit out clan rats. As is the Skaven way. It is known. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Like Razor, Wolf Rat's terribly underperforming these days. Wolf Rats really need rear charges. They're really, really good. They have high DPS if you can get them to rear charge. But compared to other dog units, they're bad. But the thing is, they just fulfill such a crucial role in the Skaven roster that you have to take them. They're just so important to Skaven because they're the only real mobility tool. I just want one globe. Come on, just one globe volley into this entire blob and kill everything. It's so funny when it happens. Yeah, I don't foresee... Okay, so Dark Elves have to 3-cap. In a couple of seconds, they'll be forced to a 3-cap situation. I don't see it happening. And actually, Skaven are even taking objective 1 for the moment, so... A valiant attempt from Czar. Thanks for the stream, gotta go. Thanks for coming, man. Appreciate it. Yep, Globity is just holding down the fort on the high ground. Blob is blobbing in the middle ground. Is that Rod of Corruption? Nope, there's a Poison Wind Volley and I missed it. I missed it! Oh, these Globities are still firing. Oh, that's amazing. Give it to me, ratty boys. Yep, just applying Poison Wind to everything in this entire blob. Mostly your own units. I love Skaven, thematically. And yeah, that'll be Skaven taking the fat dub. Like I said, I think Skaven are actually really strong these days. I mean, they're not gonna, you know, they don't probably hold a candle to like Tomb Kings, Counts, Slanesh, whatever, but like they're definitely upper middle of the pack. You know, when the top 4 are banned, these guys can actually do really well against a lot of things. They have some bad matchups, obviously, but like they're pretty good. And that'll be Gianni taking our first game. Like I said, this is a best of 3, so Czar still has an opportunity to come back. Yeah, losing Malekith like that, I wonder if he couldn't see the Natty Boobos, because they just tore him apart and he wasn't juking, so I suspect he just couldn't see them, which, again, it's a known bug, and I really hope they fix it. That feels awful. I don't know, maybe we'll need to ban that if they don't fix it by the 18th. Oh, it would feel bad though, because Natty Boobos are a really like important part of the Skaven roster, because it lets them deal with enemy missiles very effectively in ways they couldn't otherwise. Like it lets them bring one of their key missile units even when they're being outshot heavily. So like banning Natty Boobos would feel really bad for Skaven, so I don't want to ban that particular unit. But wow, let these guys fight. That's a lot of value. But yeah. Anyway, that'll be round 1 going to Gianni, and it is my responsibility to set the map because I'm lobby host, so I should do that. Next map is Death Pass. Sorry guys, responding to a couple DMs. So you catch up on chat in just a moment. Okay. Ooh, we got Slanesh counts. How did these get past bans? Okay. So normally this matchup is pretty Slanesh favored, but on a map that's like Death Pass, which is very narrow and hard to abuse the strength of your cavalry and your mobility, it could be a lot easier for counts. Because normally what happens is counts push to a point, Slanesh surrounds them with cav, and just prevents them from getting reinforcements, and then just cycle charge them endlessly. As well as having, usually you see Nakari, well often you see Nakari come in and just snipe any counts characters and really punish, if you have a dragon or Manfred flying around and landing, as soon as they land, Nakari's on top of them, beating the shit out of them. Any necromancers on the ground get killed, as well as Nakari's really good in a blob fight. You can also see things like Azazel actually try to take the fight in the air, though he's pretty squishy. Or sometimes you just take a Lord on a War Shrine and just have that Mortis engine actually blob fight really hard. On the count side of things, the builds are usually pretty standard. It's like, a million bodies, Crypt Horrors, sometimes Devil of Swords off, and sometimes some calves, sometimes some dogs, but it's really hard to contest Slanesh's mobility superiority. They were just so strong in the cavalry department that you kind of just have to rely on your raw stat lines of your infantry to actually just tank, just absorb the beating that Slanesh loves to give you, and survive. Good turn. Launch another tournament while I was streaming, and so I can't play. God damn it, Turin. Why are you like this? Why do you do this to me, Turin? God damn it. I like playing games too. God heckin' damn it. Turin hosted another Flash tournament while I'm streaming. For fuck's sake. Castle play show off your micro. I've done that before, and I probably would have done that, but like this tournament's still going on. Like the other tournament is started 5 minutes ago. Like I still have to finish this series, and I want to finish this series. Like if it was like it starts 5 minutes after we end here, sure, I've done that before. It's pretty fun, but like I've committed to doing this, so I'm gonna keep doing this. No, say I prefer casting, but yeah. Also, casting while playing is really distracting. I'm kind of in awe of people like Anticity and Turret who can do that really well, because my performance just tanks as soon as I start talking. Normally when I'm playing tournament games, it's like I mute in I deafen in Discord so nobody can talk to me. I turn up music so I can't hear any distractions outside my headset. I just focus as much as I can. Now I'm getting a million pings from turns Discord because that's happening. And there's a bunch of mods talking behind the scenes. I'm glad you find my suffering funny. My life is very difficult, as you can tell. Oh, player's ready. I should pay attention. Thanks for the follow. A Minotaur Wizard. That's an amazing username. I love it. Appreciate the follow, dude. Again, if you're just joining us, this is the finals of my Newbie tournament. I host these every weekend. Not sure if we're going to be doing Saturday or Sunday going forward. My schedule's been a little in flux, so we'll do them when we can. And if you're new to the tournament scene, you want to get some games in, you want to try out tournaments without, risking running into, a houseplant or an Anticity. Great place to get some tournament experience without getting rolled the first round, because that's no fun. Additionally, if you're new to the tournament scene, I've been putting out educational content on my YouTube, trying to explain fundamental concepts about how multiplayer is played at a competitive level, as well as how units are used at a competitive level. So, if you're new to the multiplayer scene, or if you just are interested in that kind of stuff, check it out. If you're on Twitch, YouTube in the chat, I'll give you the link. If you're on YouTube, well, you're already there. Any support on that would be greatly appreciated, because I'm trying to get that channel to grow, because I want to make the onboarding process easier for new players in this game. I feel like the learning curve is so rough. I'm trying to make that a little easier, both through these tournaments and through that kind of content. So for the Forces of the Vampire God, we have Kemmler. I haven't seen Kemmler in years. Okay, we have some Krell Summon, Undeath Resurgent, Raise Dead, Invocation, no Wind of Death on Kemmler. Okay, we got a caster. Okay, Necromancer on a Corpse Cart with Raise Dead. Is that the bound one or the basic one? Okay, it's the actual spell. And where'd the other one go? Is he the same? Looks like he's the same. Then we got, zombies, skeletons, crypt horrors. Pretty standard counts fare. Although kind of surprising not to see Wind of Death. That spell is very strong and you see it quite often. Force of Slaanesh, we have, Exalted Keeper. Haven't seen one of these in a while. Pit of Shades, Belay of Blows, as well as Glamour of Slaanesh, Soul Siphon, and Feast of Fear. Soul Siphon is actually really nice. It's basically a Mortis effect on anything that is already crumbling, which against undead factions happens quite often. Soul Grinder will help dig out those characters, as well as do quite well against the Crypt Horrors. We have Dode Marauder Spears. Okay, just a bunch of Marauders, backed up by Demonettes. Basic Demonettes. Alright, don't see those very often. Hellstrider Spears coming in, as well as, I assume, more zombies being summoned. Looks like the Tithe. Yep. The Counts have elected 2 objectives to take. This one and this one. Good. Do not try to play 3 objectives when you have a mobility disadvantage. This is Slaanesh. Now, if you're playing Slaanesh, what you get to do is you get to just chill back here, usually, and decide, do I want to fight here, or do I want to fight here? Typically, this one's going to be better because you can get cav around the flank. But you also have the freedom to just go over here and try to brute force with superior forces. Because now that they see you're committing here, they bring the Crypt Horrors over, and now there's only like paper-thin zombies and skeletons over here. So the thing is, with Slaanesh, you can just take these Demonettes and the Lord and just run over here and chew up zombies and skeletons all day. And just back off in the middle. If you leave all of your skeletons here in the middle, then your opponent has to leave a massive blob, and you can just kind of say, well, I'm going to fight wherever your resources aren't, and I have the speed to do it. So I really am not a fan of just pushing this far forward against Counts. I think his plan is try to just block Counts off the point. Don't let them get on the cap in the first place because they're hard to remove. I think Slaanesh, you definitely have the power to remove it. Demonettes will be like a lawnmower through these skeletons and zombies. They have excellent melee stats, and they'll just tear them apart. Along with good melee defense and fizz resist, they won't take a whole lot of damage in return. And jeez, there. Oh, wow. I wasn't expecting them to be that brutal. Jeez, Slaanesh gives it hard. Jeez. Kemmler is on foot, and honestly, Kemmler should be the target of these Soul Grinders. Actually, the Necromancer is a pretty good target, too. They are a good source of passive healing for this entire blob, so getting them off the field quickly is pretty beneficial. Hellstriders, like that, get the cav right on the side. It's beautiful. Get him in the back. Around that Vargulf that's going to try to punish your Soul Grinder. Kill that. Recharge the Crypt Horrors wherever. Yeah. Good cav control from Zar. Get them in the back. Yeah. That Vargulf ain't long for this world. Joined by a Soul Grinder, an Exalted Keeper, and Hellstriders. It won't last very long, and it ain't going anywhere. What do we have coming down here? Is that a Phantasmagoria? What was that spell? I don't know. I guess it was... I don't know what that would have been. What is this? What is this pink? Oh, Fascination. It's the army ability. Okay. Yeah, that Vargulf is gone, and the valued lead spikes for Zar. That's it. He hasn't captured Objective 3, and I'll probably want to do that at some point, but... Yeah, and this is this thing. Like, look at all this paper-thin zombies and skeletons. If you send 1 or 2 Marauders over there for Slaanesh, you can just take that back real quick. But, like, honestly, this bluff is going just fine. Krell is here, but Krell will never catch this Keeper. Like, the Keeper should never be anywhere he can fight it. And Slaanesh just... This is just going faster. Big Pit of Shades over here, just clearing up all these chaff, trying to isolate the Crypt Horrors. That's a good play. You want to get rid of the infantry underneath, so you can isolate the Crypt Horrors and kill them. This blob on the right is actually winning out against Slaanesh units, and they're trying to push onto point to actually cap it. The thing is, Slaanesh can finish up over here and then come over here. They have all the time in the world. Demonettes are starting to crumble away, but they've already done a lot of work. They've already gotten 155 kills. Granted, a lot of that was skeletons and zombies just chaff, but still, you know, it's a dirty job, but it's a job that needs done. These Crypt Horrors are melting away, and the thing is, yeah, Slaanesh They don't really separate the fight like this. Like, they just, they sent a couple of things over here, but then the bulk of their forces came over here, and there's Alpha striking the right side and deleting it. And then they can just bounce around to the other side. And they've almost doubled Count's value already, which is very, very good. But they need to cap that right side objective, but they're not gaining a whole lot for their value lead. Spawner coming in. Spawner really, really good. They clear up. They just do a ton of damage to light armor, as well as applying Soporific Musk, the debuff, which lowers the damage output of things like crit rolls. Oh, jeez, why? Is it just Vigor Mortis? Yeah, I guess just Vigor Mortis buffing their stats. Jeez, Count's stats are insane. Instead, having your cav embroiled in melee like this isn't really what you want. You want them to keep cycle charging. I'd really love to see the snipe come in on Kemmler. He's got nothing to protect him, really. You've got this big demon. You've got... Where's the Soul Grinder? Where'd the Soul Grinder go? You got a Soul Grinder right here somewhere. You did. It'd be a real shame if that Soul Grinder was dead already. Where the hell did Soul Grinder go? El Grindo? Ah, it's just... Okay, it's embroiled in the melee. Yeah, I'd really love to see the snipe come down on Kemmler. He's pretty much defenseless. He's not a great melee combatant. He's only got 45 melee defense and not a lot of HP. And Counts rely very, very heavily on their lords and casters. So just snipe the characters out very, very quickly. And Counts are going to have a bad time. This blob becomes so much less threatening as soon as Kemmler and the Necromancer are removed. And you have the tools to do it. But as it is, Slaanesh actually losing out on this. Their infantry's dying off. Their cav is dying off. They looked really good at the start, but now they just don't have the staying power that Counts do. And on top of that, like I said, they're not actually holding Objective 3, so they're not really gaining much for their efforts here. That's it. There's only a zombie on the right side, so that could be a pretty easy backup for Slaanesh. And as we all know, Slaanesh does love to come from behind, so I'm sorry I had to. And we got, ooh, nice pitch chase here. Most of these are just mostly zombies. So we do a lot of damage, but it will isolate the Crypt Horrors. But no, there's not a whole lot here to kill them. It's just some tattered Slaanesh cav. The infantry has all died off or routed. It's just the caster, the Lord, and the Soul Grinder. The Soul Grinder is doing fine, but there's a Volgarth beating on it. There's Crypt Horror surrounding it. It's actually in a pretty rough spot, and the caster can't even bail it out that much, or the big demon. Counts are taking the center objective, and they got a pretty hefty blob here. There's a lot of meat to remove from this objective. With all your infantry in tatters for Slaanesh, you're going to have a hard time taking that back. And this is like the problem I said with taking the fight so far forward. You really want to play the mobility game against Counts, where you don't really want to take this fight head on, especially if you didn't bring a Mortis engine, the War Shrine. You want to just abuse your mobility and take a fight where Counts have less forces. If you take the blob fight head on, you have to win it pretty decisively, and that can be very, very hard to do. And now the Caster Lord is just caught up in Crypt Horrors and Vargulf and Kemmler, and are taking an absolute pounding. I suspect Counts will be equalizing the damage value very, very quickly as they start to kill those big single entities. And these cav are just cycle charging into the back of what looks like Crypt Horrors, but they're also doing a lot of damage to zombies. Zombies just taking the hits for their brethren. Exactly what they're meant to do. And Slaanesh's army is just in a lot of tatters. All their units in the center are such low HP. Except for a couple of exalted demonettes. These guys, like I said, they're a lawnmower. They'll do pretty well against these skeletons, but it'll take them a long time to chew through all these bodies, especially with all this healing from the Necromancer. So they won't actually cap that objective back in any reasonable amount of time. Soul Grinder has managed to stay alive, but the caster looks like the target and is taking a ton of damage. I keep calling it a caster. It's the Exalted Keeper of Secrets. It's a big boy, big old demon. It is trying to kill Kemmler, which, as I said, is the priority target. But with Crypt Horrors to protect him, he's in a bit of a safe spot. It's gonna be pretty hard. And another Vargulf coming in to just join this monster mash. Kemmler does need to be careful. He is actually taking a lot of hits from that Keeper. Oh, he got punted out of the blob. That's huge. He's separated from the Crypt Horrors. Crypt Horrors are all behind him now. They're all over here. There's no mass to protect him. He's in open space against an Exalted Demon. The spears aren't going to stop the demon. The demon can just punch right through them. It's actually really bad. He needs to get back to his Crypt Horrors. Crypt Horrors are his bodyguards. He needs to get back to them. Oh, I don't know if Zar is paying attention. He might be microing other things at the moment, but if he realizes if he can kill Kemmler, he could be in a really good spot. Counts have actually taken back the damage lead, and Slaanesh never capped objective number 3. That's really egregious. That's really unfortunate. Yeah, the snipe is coming in. Okay, can we kill Kemmler? Can we kill Kemmler? Okay, the Crypt Horrors are coming through, yeah. The Crypt Horrors are bodyguards. Just pile in, hold that demon in place. It doesn't matter if you kill it, just keep it the heck off of Kemmler. Most getting an invocation to heal himself up. Okay, I think now things are starting to look a little rough for Slaanesh. They just went in hard and fast and just didn't have the stamina to keep going. And no, don't C9. Okay, good. I wouldn't mind seeing a backup attempt coming in on the right side to try and take that objective, but I don't know. I feel like Zara is focusing far too much on just taking the fight and winning it, and not enough on actually playing objectives and playing the map, which is really what you need to do with Slaanesh in this matchup, which is really unfortunate.
We have a victory point. Keep it from the foe.
No, Exalted Keeper is just getting beaten on by these Vargulfs. Kemmler's pretty safe. The Soul Guard is still alive, and actually, okay, they do get this round on Kemmler. If they can kill him, they got Ballet that blows up and can actually buff their stats and do some pretty good damage here. They are exhausted, though. Soap must coming on Kemmler, which just lowers melee defense to only 50. You know, a mere 50 melee defense. And it is doing a real job of pushing him out of the blob, but he is on foot, which means he's just getting knocked over a lot. And actually, wait, is he on? Yeah, he's on foot. So he'll just get knocked over a bunch and actually take a ton of damage. But yeah, he gets knocked over, and when you get knocked over, you just don't take damage instead. Which, you know, for reasons. And also, I kind of wish there were Slicing Shards. So the difference between Pit of Shades and Slicing Shards is a lot better against Monstrous Infantry. And look what we have right here. Just a bunch of big old monsters. Be a perfect target for Slicing Shards. Mortis Engine coming in will do a really good job of just finishing off these demons, because you don't have a whole lot else to kill them. Kill the demons, how much value have you actually accrued? Only 600. That feels really, really rough for that elite of an infantry unit. Bit of Shades coming in, but it just doesn't damage Crypt Horrors, and then looking underneath the zombies. Like, these Crypt Horrors, look how much damage they're taking. They're like taking like less than like 300 damage from an overcast Bit of Shades. Which is not very well efficient. Feels really bad. Yeah, counts are up now, 1300 damage value, as well as having a 3 cap. Doesn't look very good for Slaanesh. Yeah, with the monster mash going on, like there's so many monsters protecting Kemmler. He's healing them up. He's got that Tomb Sword, I assume. Yeah, the Chaos Tomb Blade, healing them all up, rezzing models, buffing melee attack. Like these Crypt Horrors are just roided to hell. We have Vigor Mortis. But actually, don't even have the Tomb Blade effect active because Kemmler is not in melee. Odd. So we got another Resurgent coming in. Vigor Mortis. I'm really curious why Tomb Blade isn't active. But that demon isn't enough to carry, and with all the infantry tatters, it's looking really, really rough for Slaanesh. Hellstriders, more Hellstriders coming in, but I feel like you need Seekers here. Like, the thing is, Hellstriders do a lot of damage to large targets, but you can't get to the large targets, there's so much chaff in the way. You need to kill chaff, and Seekers, or even Hellstriders the Whips are just way better at that. The thing is, I think if you're going to take this heads-up fight, you bring a caster on a War Shrine. Like a Pit of Shades caster on a War Shrine. You could still bring the Keeper, honestly. I like the Soul Siphon, but I think I prefer Nakari. The thing is, this guy heals. Yeah, I guess actually that probably heals a lot. And then, yeah, Acidity, so he's still healing plenty, but I don't know. I prefer Nakari in this matchup personally. He's a lot better at sniping the characters and still does everything else that this guy does, basically. Except he can bring Slicing Shards or the Lore passive, both of which I think are kind of better than Pit of Shades here. Because Pit of Shades is only really going to be targeting skeletons or zombies, and that's just not a ton of value. I wish we could see like separated spell value versus base value. Like this guy's got 4,500 value. Like he's done well, but I think Nakari is just a little bit stronger. Or, you know, you take a cheaper Lord and just go wide. Going wide is always an option. But yeah, counts have a very hefty value lead, or hefty value lead and a hefty point lead. I don't see Slaanesh coming back into this fight anytime soon. Removing this many counts bodies, or as many of you know, is nearly impossible to do. It's just so hard to take this an objective back in counts when they have this many forces dedicated to it. I really think Slaanesh would be better off just, you know, like I said, just set your infantry here. That forces counts to have a massive blob of units here, and then run over here with your faster units. Or better yet, sit here in the trees. That way counts have to split their forces pretty evenly, because you have the choice to take whichever fight is advantage to you as Slaanesh. Because if you're sitting here in the trees, and your opponent takes half their blob here and half their blob here, you can come and fight half their blob with your entire army. You can come around here, you can come around here with your front line, come around here with your back line, or even just come around here with the front line and just go and steamroll their blob with your entire army. And then they have to rotate. And then they have to rotate, and then you have troops coming in from reinforcements that they still have to protect, so they have to leave something here. And you can just force them to rotate all their units very, very slowly, and just abuse the count's lack of speed. As it is, Slaanesh doesn't have the time or the resources on the map to actually cap these objectives, I fear. Which is a shame. Despite the Herculean efforts of this Keeper of Secrets. She's 122,000 damage done. Jeez. That is so much value.
One of your units has been destroyed.
Mortis Engine hasn't even been on the field long and it's already paid for itself. Yeah. And I think that is going to be game. And that'll be our series going to Gianni. Yeah, there's just too many counts bodies, and there's only 8 Slaanesh units on the field. Most of them are routing or in tatters. Keeper put up a good try, but plenty of retaliatory monster mash to deal with it. And Kemmler survived the whole thing. Like, if you bring a big demon like this, you gotta be able to snipe the characters. There's Kemmler and a Necromancer. They killed one Necromancer, but you really need to kill both. And this big guy is gonna go down here pretty soon. Yeah. Goodbye. And with that, so crumble the hopes of Czar and Slaanesh.
I knew it. Unending glory
GG, well played.
is
Listen, I think the match was very winnable. You just gotta, I don't know. Like, it makes sense to try and take the fight before counts can get on the point, because once they're on the point, you know they're very hard to remove. Very understandable you'd want to try that, and I've tried that myself, but, like, I don't know. It's just hard to keep the fight up when you're that close to the enemy when you're close to the enemy spawn, and when you're not really playing into your strength, namely mobility. You really want to abuse the count's slow speed on their infantry. Like, if they rotate Crypt Horrors alone between the objectives, they're taking tons of damage from Hellstriders along the way, or they should be. Geez, 6,000 value on this guy. Yeah. Like, he had a pretty hefty value lead early. He just couldn't maintain it because he was fighting the entire Count's blob. The Counts are so much better when they're crowded around those corpse carts and Kemmler. They both give them melee stat buffs as well as healing. But it's very hard to kill off those blobs around those characters. Anyway, GG, well played to our players. Congratulations, Gianni has won our newbie tournament for this week. And what are you guys up to in chat? First game, do you think Czar can come back yet? Or will be a 2? Well, kind of late to predict that. Sounds like game 3 to me. Guess I was wrong. Seems like a really decisive first strike, though. Yeah, Slaanesh just, they came in hard and fast and just couldn't keep going. My pleasure. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Like I said, I've got a bunch of YouTube content coming out. A lot of educational stuff, explain the basics of the game, how it's played at a competitive level. Appreciate if you check it out. Any support over there is super helpful. Help out the channel, help it grow, help more people see it. On that, thank you guys for watching. We'll be having another newbie tournament again next week, probably the same time. I'll have to look into that, what time we're going to be doing that. And I'll have some other tournaments throughout the week, so if you're interested in that, check out my Discord, check out the tournament Discord. Both those are linked in the bio, or in my bio on Twitch, or the description on YouTube. Appreciate you guys coming out, come and hang out. Thank you so much.